Yeah, not click. Yeah, yeah, I click live, not live click. Kexx.
Yeah, Malik.
Right. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Oh, that's good.
Good.
The lifeline.
Yeah. Saya mbegu, ngai mbegu lo, etel tamu soti, etel be mol kuska. Saya mbegu lo.
I know, right? Assalamu alaikum, everybody that is watching. It's another Sunday, and we came back here to talk about issues affecting our country. And this week, na sister tata break, bit of so I'm trying to host the show, and I might not necessarily do it perfectly like she does, but I'll try my best. And today we have two great people as guests. We have Kexx Sanneh, a member of the PDIS political party, but also social justice activist, a young Gambian who is very much passionate about Gambia and everything that revolves around Gambia and politics especially. And we'll be also having our learned friend, Melville Roberts, who is a lawyer, but he'll be joining us later. And hopefully very soon he will log in. Kexx.
Yeah.
I don't know what language do you want us to use? Fonga Mandingo, use Bamfonga English, or what are you more comfortable with?
I'm comfortable with both. Just look at the best. You are the host. Just choose the language and I'm fine with it. Each
Okay.
language Tarek, I'm okay with it.
Okay. So Kexx, mobe alone ko like itemu PDIS lab, not only a supporter but you are officially a member of PDIS. And you participate this election in Tambita. And I think you've gone around the country. So sa ndala ka meaning kala wala mo. Ite mune amira like PDIS la performance this time. Akeda nyadi le kabring results announced ite aje. What came to your mind?
Yeah, baraka bage pour console la program don content bage mbe content na mbe la mulal fana be content na it is always a pleasure pour kata ni program nyinto binto banta ba amba content na mba na la dokulal be content na kada network te me alan ko kada dulal de me alan ko gambenol ka kachaje banko la nyato tala ni banko la ko la content pour kana ni platform ro pour si kacha yeah men fo wala to nyati doy fana kada patio de me alan ko ndeka wala support PDOIS the contested is past 2021 December 4th election nada third position a fourth position sorry in the election disappoint based on the fact that go name patio nying atoke la ngam banko be ya from Carton to Koina banjun to bara adulati je mandamento ma Mfutata Dawda Mol can believe in the Ninelako PDOIS, so more especially Halifa Saleh do Komenge Gambia 2016 or Kamala Gambianol Pareda Purka Banco Diara because he have played a leadership role. May I understand ko anyanda asinyang Banco Marano. So na program on na policy sol fananga Melfo Mol believe that Koda Malas of Wari Abondeno in Banco Kan. So almost every village or every constituency or every district or every town Madawda village visit more impression they are going to vote for PDOIS, but that didn't turn out when the elections were announced. So I was very disappointed based on the fact that the impression that people give us and it doesn't materialize into votes. But at the end of the day, I respect the decision of the Gambian people. And not alone for now, there are very factors after doing our own study. Nada understand that there are very factors mele alonko contributed to that performance me alonko into the PDYS. Not based on that people didn't believe in the PDYS or the policies of PDYS. That is bad. That's why they vote against PDYS. But they vote based on their personal choice that others feel like the competition was more between Adama Barrow and UDP. So those who support Adama Barrow decided that okay, those who want Adama Barrow to lead decided that okay, even their PDY sympathizers or PDY supporters, they will go and vote for uh, Adama Barrow rather than voting for UDP because voting for Khalifa Sallah because near vote for Khalifa Sallah, Khalifa will not win, and that means that you will have a UDP government. But notwithstanding, I mean, we have seen some of Doi sympathizers Melfanali had decided because they believe that UDP will be the party that will take over the next government. So they rather go and vote for UDP than to give it to Doi. So these were two factors that contributed to the performance that Doi Yasoro in this election. Not based on that, because they didn't buy the idea of Doi or the policy. They were very convinced the policies and the programs of Doi, but they vote based on insecurity. Others people vote because they don't want a UDP government or they don't want Adama Barrow's government. So even though they are sympathizers of Doi or they would have voted for Doi, they decided to vote for these two political parties, believing that Doi will not win an election, even voted for them. So that was a very disappointment part of the election. But after all, it is the Gambia that wins or it is the Gambia that loses. Doi has a political party, has never lost an election, and we will never lose an election because no single Gambian has ever questioned the policies and the programs of DOE and said that this is not fit for its purpose. They all believe that DOE programs and policy is fit for its purpose. So if people vote based on their personal belief or their personal ideology or whatever they believe in, that's not DOE losing, but it's the Gambian people that are losing. So for that being the case, we believe that we have to respect the decision of the Gambian people and still move on trying to build the party and send our message and prepare for the next electoral cycle, that is the National Assembly and the Councilors election.
Okay, so it Amira, because to be honest with you, Ngamira and Tagite we discussed about this even well before elections. Because Ndameta Nyumfala like almost an year ago. Ko the way Ntanga Kwali Nyami, this election is going to be a two-horse race. And Ngamira I've said that in public, I've said it in private. And the reason why I said that was because one, I knew like UDP had an opportunity me along ko. I don't think they have ever had that kind of opportunity in terms of election, purka election on you win. That's one. So two, Ngalon Fananko, Adam Barrow has an incumbent. Afanang will do everything possible to make sure that he retains his seat. So, and also looking at other factors like finance and support base and all those stuff, Ayuko, like the 2021 elections, was going to be won by the party that has the biggest funds. And Gambia election on I will handle. So, Muneketa, as politicians or political parties, Cabral, ite minute mira wala asabu. They knew from the onset, party killing pour ay incumbent yung win be difficult. Mula dina political parties will member Gambia iman kafunyo kang to form a coalition come like Minketa 2016 because that would have given them a better opportunity to upset the current incumbent president. So it had me that Mineketa for 2016 mishaps all Minketa during the coalition wale sabu party all benno, even though we have seen smaller coalitions within political parties like UDP has its own coalition with other people that supported it. PDIS also had other candidates who supported them. You also have GDC's Mama Kande also had some people who joined him, but also you have the incumbent. So Cabral Nimbe analyze. Itala miroto mula mira for political opposition parties could not come together under one platform to contest with a single candidate. And also did that contributed in the huge loss that the opposition parties suffered in these elections?
Yeah, thank you very much. There are various factors Melalongo one will attribute to it. They might not be fact, but based on our personal ideas, I could say that there are two factors that contributed to Meltaranyito. One It's more of a power play. Mayor has gone into our opposition's party. Everybody want to lead. And no doubt that then there'll be a problem because at the end of the day, some of these big political parties sees that, okay, this is the last time for me. So if I have to allow these other political parties, then that means that's the end of me for being a president in this country. So that has been a factor. Me along with other parties, they didn't want to come on board unless they have been selected. But what is clear from our perspective or from this angle is very clear that for 2016, we have achieved what we call a regime change. But what we were able to achieve was a system change. And we said that for the next election cycle, we're going to advocate for system change. And any political parties may along believe that that system change, our doors are open for you to come and we start negotiation how to approach the 2021 election. And that was prior to, before the 2021 election of the comments that we have made this very clear to everybody. And our doors were very open for parties to come. Whoever feels is interested can call us for a dialogue so that we can sit down and discuss about this issue. But it never happens, and we say that, okay, the time is not on our side, and we decided to go on our own. Until later, we found out after the nomination process, some parties were rejected. They decided to come and rally behind PDOIs to support us, which we appreciate very much because we have nothing under the table that we offer them, but they came based on our policies and our programs to support us. But one is everybody want to lead at that time, and that has been a factor. But two, trust lose again in terms of the opposition leaders because we have seen what happens in the coalition 2016. We all came together for one sole objective that was to change the Gambia and put a level political ground for multi-party contests. But party interest and power play has taken over the whole idea of the coalition. Parties feel that their parties will die if they don't concentrate on their political parties, and then they decided to look for party interest rather than the national interest, and they put their party interest forward rather than the national interest. So Kabuokera then it brings what we call mistrust between them because they all sat under the table and have this discussion that go. For 3 years transition, let's all put our parties aside and come together and form a coalition so that we will lead this Gambia on a solid foundation. But parties all BJ Melaronko, they decided to look for their party interest and they decided not to adhere to that agreement. So Keda Kudi Melanko, no Kedeni Motemarek, then it creates what we call mistrust, Menka Kaltema. So mistrust letter Tema Atina, Dolma La to come together with those type of political parties again to form a coalition. But Memphana Akeda, the third factors, the other political parties think that with only them, they can win Adama Barrow. And they have overconfidence in themselves to the extent that they didn't want to open their doors for any other political parties. For them, them alone could have unseat Adama Barrow. And with that confidence that they have, it doesn't materialize into vote. And this has been a contributing factor. People decided to go and vote based on how they feel like to vote. So there are these three factors. Power struggle has been there, mistrust has been there, and the overconfidence of other opposition political parties has contributed to Adama Barrow taking this landslide victory by collecting almost 53% of the total votes. So even if you put all the opposition parties together, in terms of percentage, they could not have Adama Barrow what he scores because you are only left with only 47% of the votes when Adama Barrow took 57. So even if you add all of them, 47 and 53, 47 will automatically be the victory.
Okay. I just want to throw one thing out there because, I've said this, coalition building in Gambia will be very difficult with the current constitution that we have. Because we have to remember, the constitution of the Gambia, the way it is set up, we have an executive presidency. And even whereas you come into an agreement with an individual or a party, once they get into power, the person becomes an executive president. And it's very much difficult to hold that person accountable based on the agreements that were pre-done before the elections. And usually, for me, I think trust is the basis of any coalition that is going to be built in Gambia. And I think, like you said, the 2016 election coalitions set a precedent that would make it very much difficult in future elections unless and until the constitution is changed. For whereas if we have a parliamentary presidency, but as it stands now, it's going to be very difficult for political parties, especially the bigger parties, to come together and have an agreement because a precedent was already set in 2016. Okay, another thing is like what is the future of PDIS? Because we've learned, and I think Khalifa has made that publicly in several forums, that this was going to be his last time to contest any political office, if I am right, right? We all know the influence that Khalifa, Sidia, Sam, Auntie Ami, all of these people have within PDIS, but also within Gambians. So, what impact would you think it will have if Khalifa is to bow out from active politics or from the leadership of the PDIS? But not only that, also is what mechanism is put in place to make sure that there is a smooth transition from the older generation of PDIS executive to a new one? And are your doors open to especially women leadership? Like, because usually in Gambia we have not seen women take very leading roles in terms of political parties. I'm not just saying like deputy party leader or whatever, but assuming leadership of political parties, but also not only that, contesting elections on the political party tickets. So, what is the future of PDIs without Khalifa, Sidia, and their group?
Well, thank you very much. For long time, people always concentrate on Halifa, or they see PDOIS as a trio. That's Halifa, Samsar, and Sidi Ajada. But PDOIS, I think, people fail to understand that PDOIS is more of an institution that have built young people to take the mantle of leadership on any time they feel like they want to take the back seat. And I think that has manifested in all of our National Assembly elections that have taken place here. The last National Assembly that we almost have 25 candidates that have contested on the PDY's ticket. And the age bracket of these people, if you see, is between 30 to 40 to 45 years. That tells you that, there are young people that PDYs has nurtured, to take the mantle of leadership. And we have expected that Khalifa will never be a PDOI's leadership forever. There must be a time he will retire or God will decide on his destiny because he don't wish to live forever. So we have put this in the back of our mind, and we have prepared young leadership that will take over the party. Yes, it might affect the party in order because sometimes people support political parties not based on the policies and the program, but personalities. And we have few of those people that will say that, okay, without Khalifa Salah, okay, me, I'm okay with Gambian politics, because those people, they support police Khalifa as a president. But Doi has an institution, will be here, and people will be surprised come this National Assembly election. You will see young people, and next 4 years when we decide to go for Congress again to select the leadership of the party, you will see young people with their PhD master's degree that are running for the leadership of the party in terms of the flag bearer, secretary general, and other things. So this has been an issue that people see Halifa Salah and Doi, but they don't understand the circumstances why Halifa and Sidi Jada stay so long. But what we should understand, for 22 years of Jammeh's rule, there was no single young Gambian who was ready to sacrifice the sacrifice that these two great leaders have done for the party, sacrifice their wealth, put their life at stake to challenge Yahya Jammeh. Nobody was ready for that. And this is why they overstayed and they were fighting for the cause. Because people see that, contesting against Jammeh was just a suicide that one is committing. So young people, there was nobody that was ready to come and put your head in the battle ring. So it was these people that were there holding PDOIs to make sure that the party stand. Even when Jammeh came, what he did was force to ban all political parties, all political activities. But these people stood on their feet to make sure that the party still survived. So, and since then, nobody was there, ready to put your life at risk because contesting against Jammeh, we have seen it, some people were assassins. So many things happens during the time. So people feel like contesting against Jammeh is something that is more of suicide. So that's why they were there. But immediately after that, Khalifa said that, okay, this will be my last attempt. Khalifa made that announcement since in the National Assembly, and I once made that post. So people just think that he made this decision after 2016 election. But Khalifa made this announcement in the National Assembly precisely around 2017. He said, I decided to come to this National Assembly so that I will build the foundation because our National Assembly has been abused for the previous years. And I came to the National Assembly so that we build an institution that all of us can be proud of. Even if we are not here, the instrument and the institutions will be there to make sure that rule of law prevail in our National Assembly. So this has been what Khalifa said, and he said that from there I am not going to interest in being a National Assembly member. And for the presidency, this will be I will just go for one attempt. And if I lost in that election or I win, that will be my last attempt. If I win too, I will only serve for 1 5-year term to just lay a solid foundation for Gambia to have a democracy that all of us can be proud of. So this has been the aims and the objective of Khalifa Sallah in politics. He just want to lay the foundation, a solid foundation that we could have achieved in 2016, but we could not have achieved it because of power play and power struggle and partisan politics rather than national politics. But if not, we could have laid this country in a solid foundation after 2016 victory. But people refuse to put their personal and party interests ahead of a national interest. We could not achieve it. So he said, let me try this last attempt and see whether we can lay the country on a solid foundation. And the Gambian people decided to vote based on whatever they vote on. So Khalifa had made this, but he knows that he have laid a very solid young people and dynamic that are ready to sacrifice. I know we cannot have another Khalifa Sallah in the Gambian politics, and we cannot have another Sidia Jada. But at least we can emulate some of the good things that they have done, because these people are, one can say, prophets in terms of politics. They are politically perfect to the extent that I don't think there will be any Gambian that will emulate how they have done their politics for almost 36 or 37 years. They have never been accused of any corruption. They have never been accused of flip-flopping, even if its situation doesn't favor them. These people, even it will affect the party will die, but they want to stick to their words. They have been consistent for 36 years. They have refused to be bribed by any power houses in terms of even how you donate to the political party. These people are even mindful what type of money they will receive from the Gambians. You know, they don't just go and receive money from people just like that. So I don't think we'll have those type of people in the politics, but they have make sure that they build people, and you could see that the People Center was built that train young Gambian people, protect them to take the leadership of this country. And they did that for a purpose, because they know that there will be a time they will not be in the political landscape. So they must build future leaders. That's why the People Center was built. They don't only stop there. You go to what we call a Fourier newspaper that was built by that an organ of PDOIS. How many young people has passed through that institution, and now they are serving their various institutions, and that institution has been used for at least to lay a foundation for our journalists that has passed through this place. But it was not only used for that. We have seen people who are doing research in terms of their political science or political lecturers in the university. They will come to PDOIS as a political bureau to go into their archives and do some research so that they can prepare themselves for leadership in this country. And even for even this TRRC that we have been seeing, most of their evidence were from either PDOIS or Fourier, because this has been the political party that has been putting records of the history of this country, and they make sure that they build a house that we call the archives of the Gambian history and what has transpired there. Institutions, even UNDP, ECOWAS, they will all come here and do their research, and they only rely on PDOIS or Fourier newspaper to do their research. So PDOIS is not only a political party, but it's an institution, and that has built leadership. And some are even doctors in various fields. Some are permanent secretary that are product of PDOIS. So I think if there's a call for a leadership, those people will come to make sure that they maintain the legacy of Khalifa Sallah, Sidia Jada, and the great leaders of PDOIS. So the leadership will not be a problem. Yes, Khalifa will leave a vacuum, but he's not completely retired from politics, but he's just retired from what we call political participation, where he will offer himself to be elected to represent the people. But he will be behind the scene, guiding the party, guiding the young people, to put this country on a solid foundation. So he's not totally leaving the political scene. He's just, he said he is retiring from representation, but he will be there for the party. And whenever the need arises for us to consult him in terms of how we will save this country, I'm sure he will be available to guide us.
Okay. We'll also talk about the current elections, but because it's a matter of litigation, so we'll not go into the nitty-gritties of it for two reasons. One, because the matter is mentioned at court, we are not at liberty to dilate into the nitty-gritties of the issues. But
Mhm.
we talk about some of the issues that really happen, because I always say this: election is just not the voting day. Election is a process from the time of registration, nominations, campaigning, and voting, counting of the results, but also the announcement of the results. So it's a whole process. But another reason also will not go deeper into it is because we are not lawyers, you understand?
Mhm.
And there are certain things, even whereas you are a lawyer, it's up to the Supreme Court to make an interpretation or to make a judgment with regards to that. So because of those two things, because we were expecting to have Melvin, who is a lawyer and probably would have touched on certain issues. But one thing I will say is every political party or every Gambian has a right to contest the election results or the process. That is a right that is guaranteed in the Constitution. And that is why in 2016, I've always said this. I've never had problems with Jame
Mhm.
challenging the election results. But what I had problem with Jame was he does not have the power or the mandate to annul the election results. One,
Indeed.
two, the Constitution does not empower him to bar the incumbent president, the president elect to be swearing and assume office while the matter is being discussed at the court. So 2016 flipped to 2021. Let's start it this way. In 2021 we had a new voter registration, and there is an election act which stipulates that after registration, IEC will publish all the people who registered in every registration center
Mhm.
for people to go out and verify. And
Mhm.
if you have any doubt about a particular
Mhm.
person or a group of people
Mhm.
who attained our voters card and you think they are not
Mhm.
eligible, one, because they are underage, or two, because they
Mhm.
are not Gambians.
Mhm.
After the registration process, there was a court
Mhm.
that was set up, which is called the
Yeah.
Revising Court, in which
Yes.
not only political parties, but any Gambian who had issues with
Mhm.
anyone or any group of
Mhm.
people that registered to vote can
Mhm.
go there and challenge
Mhm.
the registration of those people.
Mhm.
We've seen a civil society group and the councillor of one of the councillors of Banjul, challenge the petition, the attestation issued by the Lord Mayor of Banjul. And to my knowledge and understanding,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think that was the only group that raised an
Mhm.
issue with regards to the registration. So you as a Gambian who was on the ground, who
Mhm.
registered and
Mhm.
belongs to a political party and probably had your political party agents on the ground during
Mhm.
registration, how did you see the process of the registration?
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, election is a process, and it starts from somewhere before we go to the polls. That was precisely December 4th. It's a process, and it's a long process. It starts from uh, registration of political parties, that are interested. They will come and register their parties, or independents will declare that they are there. But IEC also have what we call the registration process, and Section 22 of the Election Act made it very clear to every Gambian that it is right for people to go and register in various registration centers. If you have the age of 18 years as a Gambian, and both parents are Gambians, you have the right to go and obtain what we call the voter registration. But the law also instructed the IEC that after doing that process, they should make sure that they paste all the names that are registered in each registration center where the public can view it. And 14 days has been given to people to go and scrutinize that document to see whether Kexx has been registered and Kexx is not qualified, whether by age or whether Kexx is not a Gambian and he obtained our voter's card. And if that is done and you see that Kexx is there, you have the right to write a petition to the IEC to say that, okay, this and this has been done and there is a code that has been established, what we call the revising code. And those people came to the parliament, the IEC came to the parliament to seek for what is called supplementary appropriation bill. And it was approved, the taxpayers' money, to establish that court. And they appoint what we call high-class magistrates, to go and sit over any case in terms of registration, whether you are objected to somebody because the person is below the age of 18 years and obtained the voter's card, or the person is not a Gambian, or any other fraudulent ways where somebody could have obtained our voter's card without the legal requirement of the law. So this has been done. And the 14 days, the registers were pasted every polling station. And every Gambian has the opportunity, either a political party or a civil society or even an individual, to go and scrutinize that document and see whether it is what the law required for the person to obtain the voter's card has been done. And no single Gambian or either a political party or even a civil society questioned the registration process. As you said, it's only the civil society that is Gambian participates and some group of people that went and challenged the attestation of Dabakh Malick law that she has no power to attest for any Gambian to obtain a voter's card because she holds a political office and a political office cannot attest to any other person. But there is no law in our electoral act that gives power to a mayor to attest or a mayoress to attest for anybody. It is only the alcalos and the CFOs that are given that power. So relying on that very section of the Election Act, the court, when the matter was brought to the court made it very clear that she has no power and the pass and restriction for her to stop giving attestation to any Gambian. And there was a promise that all those that were attest through Dabakh Malick law will be removed from our register, and those people will go in a legal way to obtain an attestation so that they will have a registration. And all these things were done. So for me, that is the end of the matter in terms of registration. So you cannot come after all those legal requirements were done by the IEC and the judicial organs of our government by creating even the court itself, establishing appointed magistrate judge to hear about the case. And when all those things happens, and then after the registration, people start to question the registration was not fair. Foreigners obtain our registration, voters card. For me, you have an opportunity to address that if you see that, if you think something was wrong. That's why that 14 days was established. That's why IEC was asked to make sure that they paste all those registration names on the wall so that people will see, or any polling station, a polling registration center for people to see. So that was the opportunity for every Gambian or political party or civil society to go and scrutinize that document and make sure that they do what is expected of them. But this never happened. So for me, then everybody is satisfied with the registration process. So I don't think there should be any question that should be asked. This is why I take it upon myself. After all that opportunities or all those time frames were elapsed, I went to the IEC and I sat with the CEO of IEC, Sambu Janjan, and I had an interview with him because I'm so concerned about when it comes to the affairs of our country, more especially in terms of election and transparency and in terms of National Assembly. It has been so passionate to me that I take it upon myself to make sure that I scrutinize everything that is happening. And I sat with Sambu. I told him, okay, the registration process has finished right now. And the court has been established, the revising court. And what the legal requirement is expected of you people to pace all these things has been done. But we have not seen any political party that has filed any case in regards to the registration process. So I want for you to give me whether I am not aware of whether any political party has filed a case in terms of the registration process. And he tell me actually there have been any case that has been reported. We have opened the courts and they start every day. They go to the courts and sit down, but there was no case that was forwarded to them in terms of the registration process. So for us, everybody is satisfied with the registration process. So for me, that should be the end of the chapter. And for me, I'm satisfied, and from our party level too, we are satisfied with the registration process.
Okay, sorry. Let me welcome our brother and our learned friend, Melville Roberts, and he's gonna deal with the legal matters because he's the lawyer and he understands the constitution. And like I said, we'll not go into the crux of the matter because it's already a case that is before the courts, and we are not here to make opinions that will jeopardize the case or show in a way that we think this is right or that is not right. But I think it's important also, and we owe it to Gambians for us to discuss about the issue because it is something that is trending right now in Gambia. And, every day we see different views or different perspectives with regards to the matter. And I think it's only fair and just that we have somebody who is an expert in that particular field to at least explain to us in a layman term for us to understand why the need for UDP to petition the election results. Where do they base that? Because I've seen people say, they should not waste the court's time. But like I said, it's a democracy, and democracy is always very messy and expensive. And Mr. Roberts, welcome to the show. Unmute yourself, bro.
Sorry. I muted my mic. Kexx,
Yeah.
good evening. Good evening. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, we good, man. You're looking
Sorry,
great.
I had an emergency, so I had to rush out to go to the hospital.
I
just came home, but I was listening.
I hope the guys will not say the gangster lawyer.
I know.
By the way, so how's your Sunday?
Not bad. Interesting program. I'm learning a lot. I of course it was a teaching moment for about PDOIS.
I know, right? So Mel, you as a lawyer, under what section of the Constitution? Because earlier before you came in, I've said this. I said everybody has a right to petition. Like when you compete in an election and then results are announced, and you felt like you did not agree to what is announced as the final results, you don't have the powers to change what is announced, but there is a process that you can follow. So is it within the rights of UDP as a political party to petition the elections? And if they're going to petition the elections, under which court should they do it? And what is the process?
Yes, you're right. But first thing I wanted to say, I know you've already said it, but I just wanted to say it again, that we cannot delve into the merits or demerits of the issue because the court sees of it. It's before the court, so we can't really get into the substance of the matter. So everything we say will just be our own individual opinion, but we cannot look into the substantive suit as in just exactly what you said, because the law frowns upon that, because the matter is before the senior learned judges of the Supreme Court. So me and you, our opinion will only stop on social media. At the end of the day, like I always say, that I've written this on my Facebook post, that the Supreme Court judges don't know it all. It is not that they always have it right. You have seen instances where even the Supreme Court will review its own decisions and sometimes depart from its own decisions. So it is not just because a ruling was made that is what it is and that is what is right. But we live in a democratic state, and one of the tenets and ideals of democracy is just to respect for the rule of law. So when the judges rule, we have no choice but to accept their ruling as final. And of course, if you don't agree to it, the Supreme Court is the apex court. So there is no other court where you can appeal, but you can ask the court if you have substantive grounds to review its decision. So, but by and large, the decision of the Supreme Court is final. Now, the Elections Act itself creates the avenue and room, and it is not limited to political parties. Anybody that feels that they are aggrieved, any party that feels that they have local standard, that they are aggrieved with respect to the way the elections transpired, the way the elections were done, have the right to petition the election result, either in most cases substantively, is to declare the result null and void, and to ask, and if that is happened, if that is granted, then the courts will obviously give an order that an election must be, we will have a rerun of the elections. Now, within our jurisprudence in the Gambia, this is actually a first, and it has never happened whereby the election results null. But we have seen the same in other jurisdictions. We've seen it in Kenya. We've seen it in Malawi. We've seen other countries where the election results have been null. But what is fundamental is the fact that the law with regards to petition is only now evolving. The law to election petition is only now evolving because the courts were very reluctant in most cases, to overturn the election results. Because when you overturn the election results, in as much as the court is entertaining the rights of the petitioner, the constitutional right of the petitioner to petition the election results, the court is also mindful to Kexx and Dabakh, who also have a constitutional right to vote. So overturning the results can also have an impact on Kexx and Dabakh. So the courts will only in the instance where it has very substantial evidence before it to show that yes, fraud occurred during the electioneering process, during the elections, but not only that, but that the magnitude of the election fraud was so large, was so massive, was in such large scale that if the elections were to be done in a free and fair manner outside of the fraudulent activities that took place, the results and outcome of the election would be totally different. So, for example, I'll give you an example what I'm trying to say in simple, like just break it down. If, for example, I and Kexx ran for presidential elections, and Kexx in the election had, let's say, 2,000 votes, and I had 500 votes. The difference of 1,500. Now, let's say it was established that there was fraudulent votes for about 500. The difference between myself and Kexx is still an outstanding 1,000. So regardless of the fraud, regardless of what happened, it is not substantial enough, it is not widespread enough to affect the outcome of the result. So the law surrounding election petition, this is what the courts have always been mindful for, that in order to overturn the results, you have to first establish that overturning the result or the fraud that took place, the illegal activities that took place, are so substantial in nature that it would have affected the final outcome of the results. So yes, we have seen now the issue of I think it was in Malawi where they actually asked for a rerun of the election. And if you look at the judgment of that court, you would see that there was widespread and the scale of irregularities surrounding the election was so widespread that the judges were convinced that in all there was all indication that if the election was conducted in a manner that it would be free and fair, the result would not have been as what it is. Now, Kexx made a very important point. You see, when it comes to the registration process, you had the revising courts, and this provision in the Election Act is it, it, it is accompanied with something we call in law a statute of limitation. So they had a particular period where anybody that had any objections, any issue whatsoever that had to do with the voter registration had the right to appear before the courts and make these grievances known. Now, after the 14-day period that it was granted for them to do this, your statute bar from raising any issues with respect to the particular voter registration. Now, what is also clear is that the Elections Act also created the avenue where the elections would be petitioned. So even though there's a statute of limitation that exists with the provision with respect to the registration process, the Act also allows for the election results to be petitioned, and it also stipulates a time whereby after which, if nobody had petitioned the results, it would be time barred. So, for example, I am of the opinion that if you look at the petition, if you look at the processes that were filed in the Supreme Court by the unity, you can tell that they were rushing to get to court because of the statute of limitation, because of the time frame, and then the lawyers knew that, okay, let's file and then we can amend later. Which is exactly what they have done, and which I believe they would still continue to do, because I am of the view that they would still amend to add the NPP there. So it is not only add the IEC as a party, I think they will have amend to add the NPP. I think the court would also be mindful to add as a party to the suit the Attorney General. So the processes are subjected to further amendment. But what I think happened was they were rushing because of this statute of limitation. Now, how the court now it boils down to issue of interpretation. Will the court read into the Elections Act and realize that every ground that has been raised in the actual substantive petition is affected by the statute of limitation with respect to the revising courts, or the court will overlook that and look at the broader aspect of allowing an election petition would be absolutely within the purview and interpretation and direction of the judges.
Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but like I said, the reason why I'm very much interested in this petition is because of two things. One, I'm a Gambian electorate, and I think it matters. Two, if my memory serves me well, I think this is the first time an election petition is actually getting to this point. So whatever decision that the Supreme Court makes, I think a new jurisprudence would be set. And I think it's important for some of us who are passionate about Gambia, but also some of the young lawyers and politicians. I think this is something that they can use in their future. And what also this tells us is, like, I think our democracy is evolving, because
it is evolving. Our democracy is evolving. It's just that I have a different opinion as to what amounts to an evolving democracy. I see a lot of people mention about the independence of the judiciary. And I have been forced to actually look into, and I've started conducting a research, and I've been reading what amounts to an independence of the judiciary. Is it that because the judiciary has consistently, as we have seen for the past 5 years, ruled against the executive, so we tend to believe that this is judicial independence? Is that what amounts to judicial independence? Judicial independence does not and is not limited to rulings that go against a sitting government. But this is what tends to be the consensus among Gambians.
Yeah.
Yes, the judiciary is independent. What is the independence of the judiciary based on? If you ask them, it can only be based on squarely because they have consistently and constantly ruled against the executive. So again, like you said, yes, it's a brilliant opportunity for us to broaden our jurisprudence with respect to elections and elections petition. But how and what it will amount to really depends on the ruling. So now let's say the ruling goes in favor of the incumbent, President Barrow, and the NPP and the IEC. What will be the consensus among supporters of the NPP, among some supporters? It will be the first time whereby technically, even though it is not directed to the executive, but really we know the incumbent is also is still the head of state and president of the Republic of the Gambia. And until the declaration of the IEC is set aside by the Supreme Court, he is still, per se, the president-elect. So if that happens, what is going to happen? Is it now that we will say, yes, the judiciary is independent? Now, I have said this to a few friends of mine that people should be very mindful. So you have seen instances where supporters of the UDP and all other supporters, especially in the issue of Yakub Majite and her her suit with the president, were celebrating the independence of the judiciary. So when now the judiciary, in a more substantive matter, in something that is the most important, you see, when you look at everything that had appeared before the court before, this is the most outstanding, it is the most important, it is the matter that has more public interest, it has more ramifications for Gambians, irrespective of party politics. You see, the issue with Yakumba and President Barrow, you could more or less look at it from a political lens, like a party lens. But this matter now affects every single Gambian, whether you voted, whether you did not vote. So now we would see, in a few days, in a few weeks, the reaction on social media from all these individuals that had established that the judiciary is absolutely independent. When they will now rule in favor of what will be their pronouncement. So let's see. I am excited to see that.
Yeah,
But I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to make that point that an independence of the judiciary, as people are saying, is not only limited to rulings against the sitting government.
No, absolutely. You're definitely right, and I think that's another level that a lot of Gambians needs to get to. We need to understand one thing is, like, democracy, like I said, is not easy. It's very messy and also very expensive. Expensive not in monetary terms, but you could be smiling today, but tomorrow you can be sad, because when a ruling is made in favor of you, you are happy. But like I said, if the same people make another ruling that goes against you, you see it in another way around. But what is important is, I think those people at the Supreme Court are people of high moral character, and they are very much experienced. And I think they have served not only Gambia, but outside Gambia too. So the experience that they have, and knowing the importance of this, I think they cannot do anything else but stay with the facts and make their ruling based on law and logic, but also without fear or favor. And I think from 2016 to date, because I don't believe there is any 100% independent individual or an institution, but I think the rulings that they've been making, at least we can say we have moved from one level to another. And there is no perfect system. As we go on, we'll rebuild on that. Okay, let me come to Kexx. Kexx, I know you are a politician, and you are a young person who is very much passionate about PDIS, who is very much passionate about Gambia, and you also somebody that follows, especially the National Assembly, and I think you have done great service to a whole lot of Gambians in knowing what entails at the National Assembly by your live streams. So this is my question. as a politician, do you have any intentions of running for political office in the upcoming elections, knowing fully well that people like Khalifa, Sidia, and others probably will be bound out from participating or contesting contesting elections? And if yes, in which constituency do you plan to? Either Serakunda, or are you going back to Nyamina where you originally came from to contest? And how prepared are you if yes?
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting question. Yeah, for me, yes, like you said, I have taken politics as my career and been associated with People Democratic Organization for Independence and Socialism. And I think it is time for me to offer myself to my people in terms of representation, because I feel like I have the know-how, in terms of representation, to represent my people, both in the National Assembly or even in councils. And I have made this decision when our National Assembly member demise, that's Mr. I think it's Demba So. And there was a by-election in Yamina West. I decided to run for the seat in the by-election, but something came up which was more of a family issue, and I decided not to go into that, and I let it go. But come April National Assembly election, I am ready to put my head in the ring to contest for Nyamina West seat as PDY's National Assembly member for Nyamina West constituency. And I have made that decision even before the presidential election, that this time around I'm going to offer myself to my people of Nyamina to say that I'm capable of doing the work of a National Assembly. And it's left to them whether they will choose me or not. But Kexx is ready to offer himself to the people of Nyamina West as a representative. And the preparation has already started. By next week, I'm traveling to my village to sit with our village, like traditional normally demands, to go and first show your intention to your people by buying cola nut and show them that I'm interested to run for a seat in Nyamina West. That's a tradition that we normally do. By next week, I'll be living in the Combos, and I will be there for a quite long time to familiar and have some discussion with and set up my committees, prepare for the National Assembly election. Yes, I am ready to run for the National Assembly election.
So then this is a breaking news for Binto Network, huh? Okay, let me make this. I know like a lot of people don't know, but I know your dad, your biological father, and we are very much close. And I know like, and this is why I said Gambia is a very small country. And when I was meeting your dad, I never knew he was your biological father. I didn't even know that you even know him, but I had a very good relationship dating back almost 15 years ago with him. And I've always had good conversations with him. We have done a lot. I have so much respect for him. He has so much respect for me. He comes and visit me, and we sit down. I go to his office. We have a chat. We drink ataya. We do a lot. So I was really surprised when he told me, "I saw you with my son," and I said, "Who?" He said, "Kexx." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You don't know Kevin is my son." I said, "I never knew that in my life." But like I said, people always attack each other on social media, not knowing like your family, your dad is a
Yes,
die-hard supporter of the United Democratic Party.
I know.
And here you are
Mhm.
supporting another political party, which is PDIS. But
Yeah,
even regardless of the different political parties that both of you support,
yeah,
you have that so much respect and good relationship between the two of you. And I think that is something that a lot of Gambians can learn from. You
yeah,
know, Kexx being a PDIS, his dad is a very strong supporter of the United Democratic Party, but yet still they live together as a family and they do a lot of things. And I think these are things that a lot of Gambians, especially the younger generation, can learn from and know that, politics should not divide us because what binds us as Gambians is far more important than what divides us. So I just thought it was important that I highlighted that thing. So Mel,
You want to give
No.
you want to give me the opportunity to be the first person to address him as honorable Kenneth Kenneth.
I know, right? So I was just gonna ask now, as a young person, someone that is very much followed, and I know a lot of young people look up to you because, like I said, it's not about any, it's not for anything. I think you have achieved something that not many people live through this world and go through it. You have gone to one of the most coveted institution in terms of higher education in this world because people like us have always dreamed about schools like Oxford, Harvard. These are institutions that anybody who is passionate about knowledge would definitely want to go through. But like I said, we have over 7 billion people in this world, and not everybody can walk through that gate. Uh, as a young Gambian, what role do you think young people can play in the future of Gambia? Because for very so long time, young people have been told we are the future leaders of tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. And the reason why tomorrow never comes is because the older generation who keeps telling young people you are the future of tomorrow never wants to bow out. And we have seen, because we are talking about politics, we have seen not only in politics but also in leadership, especially within our civil service. We have seen people who have served and got to their retirement age. Instead of bowing out, they offered contracts. Whereas you have young people who are very much educated, who have built experience over the years, but could not have the opportunity to serve at that position because yet still you have those people who have already retired being kept within the system. So what advice do you have for young people who are passionate or who have the passion or who are fearful of getting involved in politics, not only following political parties and the clapping, but also offering themselves to run for political office?
Um, okay. The first thing is I think it's a brilliant move, and I'm sure Kex is aware that I knew that he was going to run for the previous by-elections that took place, but I think something happened. He didn't want to run against the person for, I think there was some sort of relationship and stuff like that. Now, you see, Keck will tell you this. Me and him argue a lot. I mean, at some point, I think he even believes I don't like him. But that is just because this is who I am. My position, my position on issues, and not many people can do. I can deal with issues and not deal with personality. So I can have an issue with somebody, and you can still be my friend, and I can trust me and you will go to war with the issue, but it will never affect the personality. There are two distinctions. And one thing that we must accept, and one thing that we must agree, and one thing that I think is well known is the fact the guy is good at what he does. The guy is passionate about what he does. And I have always argued, and I mean, it's strange coming to me because yes, I value education, but one thing that most people fail to realize is that there's a distinction between education and knowledge. Now, a lot of people are educated, but they're not knowledgeable. And there are people who are knowledgeable, but not necessarily educated. Education meaning the formal process of gaining and acquiring knowledge. Now, it's not everybody that goes through this. And to actually, and this goes cuts across apart from text to every other young person out there, that there is nothing that should make you limit yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you can achieve the best, and you have to strive for the very best, and you have to want it. You have to be passionate about it. Now, Kexx running for election, to me, is no different from any other person who has run for any elections in our nation's history. The distinction, however, him running for office, he already has an added advantage because this is his passion. This is something he loves. And now we live in Africa, whereby We see people run for political office not because they're passionate, not because they want to effect change, but because of the perks that come with running for political office or the opportunity that comes with holding political office. And I think this is what, as a country, we need to shift away from. Now, let's go to Rwanda. I met the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Rwanda, a very young lady. She came to Oxford to give a talk. And when she spoke to us, she was like, you know what? In our cabinet, 75% cabinet members in Rwanda are below the age of 40. And when she tried to explain, and I went home to read and understand, this is a young lady, foreign minister, breaking barriers, doing things that probably her predecessors were never able to achieve. Now, what I have concluded is that when you elect young people into offices, they don't come with the baggages that you have with all these old people. Most of them have 4 wives. They have kids that are in university. The, the, everything is there that when they hold this political office, the focus, rather than giving out, is always most of the time trying to save, trying to bring in what they can get. Now, let's go back to Gambia. Now, I want you to just just imagine, and this is something people don't always think about. But if you read Kairaba, President Jawara's autobiography, and you close your eyes for a minute, do you think OJ Jallow was always old? Do you think Sadauda was always old? How old was OJ Jallow in 1965 when he held a cabinet position? What was the qualification of OJ Jallow in 1965 when he was appointed as Minister of Agriculture? This man was Minister of Agriculture. He was Minister of Fisheries. He was Minister of External Affairs at some point. But have you closed your eyes and think, in 1965, even in 1963, when Sadauda was Prime Minister, how old was he? These were young, formidable people of the day. These were the youths of the day. They are not 60-year-olds that are claiming to be youth. These were people within the youth bracket. And these were people that made the difference in Gambia. These were the people that struggled for our independence. They fought for our independence. And they were young. They had no baggage. Yes, I still believe that they stayed too long. And that is a trait in Africa where we don't want to bow down. The deliverables that will come with a young person so magnificent, they're so great, and the world is evolving. Young people understand the different aspects of life. For example, when OJ Jallow was Minister of Agriculture, they were doing what we call mixed cropping, horticultural farming, and all those stuff. Now you're talking about mechanized agriculture. You're talking about mechanical agriculture. You're talking about different things. You're talking about all the scientific attributes that come to agriculture and making it very different. So these are things that young people can bring on the table. And for me, the most important thing is that young people should not continue to see themselves as kids and think that they cannot achieve, they cannot do something. Because, like you said, they keep telling them, oh, you're tomorrow's future. That tomorrow never comes. How can you tell a young person tomorrow's future when you're 70 and you're still holding on? You're still looking for a contract to stay on that job? How can you tell that? But you're robbing that child off and out of his future because you have to create space. If you look at the civil service, people don't want to retire. Even when they retire, they're looking at having them sent to the foreign ministry so they can go abroad, serve as ambassadors. They don't want to retire. If you look at the proportion, I think Gambia has when you look at the age dynamics with respect to our missions abroad, boy, Gambia has more older people in our government than any other country I've seen on earth. Trust me. For me, I don't understand how you would see people who are already retired, they have served, they have done everything, but they don't want to make way. They don't want to go away and allow other people to progress. So you have people who have been stagnant in the civil service. They've been cadet officers for 10, 15 years. There's no progress. Because how can you progress? How can you move forward when the person at the top is not going away? That will not happen here in the UK. It will not happen in America. You won't have the same like odd years. They're not moving. They're not changing departments. And this is how corruption starts. And this is how people begin to feel entitled. Because some people, and Dab, I don't know if you've realized this when you interact with civil servants. Some people, they've been at some particular ministry or particular department so long that it's as if they own it. It's as if they're the custodian of the department. You know, everything has to go through them. Nothing works without them being there. How many times have you gone to an office and they tell you that we're sorry, the person responsible has gone out? There is nobody else that can man his or her position. There's nobody else that can take a decision. So all of these things, I think it's a brilliant idea. I think young people need to offer themselves. And again, the downside is you have a lot of young people that say, oh, these old people don't give us chances, but they don't offer themselves. You have to come forward. You have to offer yourself. I always say this, that I have so much respect, enormous respect for Lawyer Dabo and the executive of the UDP. Because when it was not fashionable, when young people like us wouldn't have dared to do what they did, they were out. Where were the young people? If you look at the executive and the people that were arrested, and you look at, they were not young people. Where were the strong men? So now it's easy for people to claim the advantage of youthfulness, saying how strong they are, how these people are old, they are tired, they are sick. But these were the same old and tired, sick people that put their lives behind the line when you and I were probably in Senegambia eating afra or smoking shisha. So that has to change. The mindset has to change. Young people have to start taking responsibility. And taking responsibility is not only taking up jobs. For example, one thing everybody would admire and say about Kexx is the fact that he's doing stuff that he's not being paid for. That is passion. That is passion. He's going to the National Assembly. He's relaying National Assembly person. And you know what? If you're a person that is very particular, but you would realize that he is getting better every day at what he did. The mistakes get smaller. He's not making as many. If you ask him before, I'm always sending him messages to correct some sort of error. I don't do that anymore because he's getting better. And this is his pattern. So young people have to come forward. Young people have to offer themselves. They don't have to wait until job opportunities come. They have to show the desire, the appetite to want to serve. And showing the appetite, having the appetite to want to serve comes first with sacrifice. It comes first with volunteering and wanting to know and wanting to learn and wanting to get the knowledge base. And I believe that if young people can inculcate that, have that desire to learn, have that desire to want to know more, they can do it. For example, going to Oxford was not easy. I'm sure you know that. It wasn't easy. Not only the academic requirement, but also the affordability. It was hard. The interviews were like so many. I think I went to about 5 or 6 different interviews to get into one university. Different. You have departmental interview. You have the institution interview. You have the college interview. You have a scholarship interview. It was just so it was so much, so many. But if you believe in yourself, you believe you have the ability, you believe you can do it, it is doable. And to every young person out there, don't underestimate yourself. Believe in yourself, have a dream, and walk towards your dream. I always tell people, the dream that we should have is a different dream. It's not the type of dream. Martin Luther King said he had a dream, but when Martin Luther King said he had a dream, his eyes were wide open. He was not sleeping. You don't sleep to dream. You have to be awake to dream. You have to walk the dream, and you have to make the dream a reality.
Okay, Kexx.
Yeah, man.
As a political party, you ran a campaign with the theme system change. And that is what you guys have sold to Gambians. And for whatever reason, it was not bought. People have not bought into it. And possibly that's the reason why they have not voted for PDIS. Knowing that Halifa Sidia and others are retiring, I've not heard about Sidia, but I know Halifa's own was publicly said. I've always believed that for one to change the system, you must be within the system. Like, if you are not in office, you cannot effect some of the changes that you want to make. Do you think, knowing what Gambia has transitioned from 2016 today, even though I did not believe the magnitude and the importance that a lot of people give to some of the polarization that happens on social media is not really the reflection of the everyday Gambian lifestyle who wakes up in Gambia. Do you foresee, if Barrow was to set up maybe, let's say, a government of national unity whereby he involves all political players, civil society, and ordinary citizens in his government, do you think, knowing Halifa, because someone who is very much close to Halifa, and truly, I think some of the programs that you people offered as your manifesto is really brilliant. And like I always say, even though I'm a bit capitalist, but I also believe we must have a socialist system or a socialist capitalist mixed system, because not everybody is able to afford the needs, their daily needs. So we must have a social program as part of the government. So if Barrow was to offer Halifa, not even a ministerial position, but let's say an advisory role, do you think he will accept that?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a brilliant question. Even though actually I don't think I can speak for Halifa, but I will definitely take examples, scenarios, or based on his own explanation in regards to what is his position in terms of working with the government. After 2016 change, we have seen that Barrow had offered him a position, and precisely that is at the position of an advisor. And he definitely accept that. He only disagree that he will not be paid to advise the president. And for Barrow, maybe he is not comfortable with that, giving somebody an position and he holds the position, but he's not been paid by me, for the person to continue advising me. So it doesn't materialize. But Khalifa definitely accepted it and said that he will be willing to advise the president at any time the need arise. He will give him his honest advice. So taking that as an example, I'm sure if such opportunity comes again, he will definitely accept it, taking the judgment or relying on what has his experience with Barrow in 2016 after the victory. He was offered an advisory position, and Khalifa made it very clear that he accepted the position, but he will not be paid to advise anybody in the country. So, but though I believe in a system, and people always keep on saying that you must be in a system to effect a system change. One has to understand the type of government we have in this country. We have a government that is, the president can appoint a minister and fire you and hire you at any time when he disagree with whatever you said. So, and Doi has been advocating since uh, its inception when they established a political party that they believe in a government that will invest in the people. And they said a development of a country must reflect on the life of an ordinary people, ordinary citizens, in terms of your daily meals and other things. How do you survive? How do you live? A good health service, a good educational structure, all the social service that is person needs. So just joining a system that you know that you don't have much influence because executive powers relies on the president, yeah, and it's not compulsory on him to take any advice from any ministry. It's left to him to look at the realities and see whether he can accept it or not. So for us to just go there and say that, okay, because we just want to join a government because people have been saying that you must join a system so that you can effect a system. That's not why DOE established it. DOE established for a purpose. And unless we see that a government is heading to that direction, we are not just joining a government for the sake of just joining them to please what people have been saying. And we have said it very clear. We said that the agricultural sector must change and it must reflect on the people that are cultivating every day. But we have seen an agricultural system that is not heading into that direction. So you want to go and join such a government. We said we have a local government system that will only collect our taxpayers' money and they will never see the money. The money will just go to the local governments or the councils and they will never see the money again. It will not come in form of a service. We said no. Though is saying that any rates that are collected from any area must come back to those people, and it must be in that particular place, their own treasury, whereby they will think of their own development, and they will sit with the villages and think of this is what we are saying. So if we don't see that in any government, I don't think we should just go and join because people are saying that we should join a government so that we can effect a change. But our programs and our policies are open for everybody. If you believe that this is the way to eradicate, those manifestos or those program has ever been open to Gambian people from Jawara to Jamme to Baro, we always give them free for them to take it if they believe, what we are advocating for, that's what they believe in. Why not Baro take it over and say that, okay, since he believes that what Halifa is saying or what CDS is advocating or PDS is advocating is the way forward of this country, why can't he implement that? That doesn't mean that Halifa has to work in that system for them to implement the system that he is advocating for. Likewise, other previous government that happens. And I have not seen any Gambian that have questioned that manifesto that has been presented to the people to say that it's not possible to implement those programs and policies. So one doesn't need for Khalifa or Syria to work in a government for you to implement it to a project. But if you are thinking in that direction and you are ready, like we want how we want to run the government, and you invite us, we'll be ready to work with you. But I can't speak for Khalifa whether he will, if he's offered today, he will definitely accept that position or not. But I have seen people advocating for Khalifa to run as a Speaker of the National Assembly. But people fail to understand that Doi has been against that system of nominating people to represent people in the National Assembly. They say that anybody that is going to the National Assembly must be elected by the people. So for us, we are against the system of even nominating people to be in the National Assembly. So based on that, I don't think Khalifa will allow that position that he's been nominated when he has been advocating for uh, positions of nominated to be struck out from our system. People must be elected and speaker must be selected from the elected people so that she or he will not be controlled by any executive, but the person will be there to serve the interests of the Gambian people and the aspiration of the people. But if the moment you are elected by the people, you tend to secure your position. So at the end of the day, you tend to fear to be the referee in the National Assembly, and you should be guided by the interests of the nation and the interests of the Gambian people rather than trying to help an executive or an other individual group fear of losing your position. So I don't think we will vote. I can't speak for Khalifa. I don't know whether he have a change of mind, whether Barrow will approach him in the first place. These are things that we will live to see until after when Barrow constitute its cabinet and see whether he have offered Khalifa a position and what is Khalifa's response. Then we can judge them based on their response and what Barrow has did. I think that will be the best thing than to speak things that is yet to come into fulfillment.
Mel, as a lawyer, how do you see this election petition play out in court, and what are the possible argument points for both the defense, okay, let me say the lawyers of the UDP, and also the lawyers that are defending IEC President Barrow, and possibly the other parties to the, like you said, probably there will be amendments with regards to the petition as we go on. And first, let me clear this. I want you to clear this thing for us first. I've seen also people post on social media that, you cannot take the president to court. And in this situation, was it right? Or if that is going into the details of the matter, I don't know. But is it true that the Constitution gives the president immunity for prosecution while he or she is holding office? Both
Section
in criminal
69,
matters,
Section
both
69.
in criminal matters and civil matters, right?
Absolutely. But anything I
So,
say now, wallahi, anything I say, I've already, I think I've already written enough on my social media page and people understand my mindset. I think before anybody started talking about this, I went on my page and wrote, I was like first responders. I just kind of gave my own opinion on what I thought should have been and not what they did. So
Yeah.
let me just think about this. And I'll give you, I don't even know if I'm saying this, it's getting into the matter, but it's not getting into, but I'm just going to ask a rhetorical question and just try to put my point across. Can you imagine if the only respondent was President Adam Abad, and then the defense raised the objection or invoked the provision of Section 69(2), and then the Supreme Court ruled in their favor? What do they have? What happens? It's over. Abi?
Absolutely.
So for me, just looking at it, I mean, I don't want to say anything wallahi, because I want to live long.
Okay, so as a lawyer, what do you think would be the argumentative points by both teams, legal teams?
Well, that's clear. That's very clear. Of course, the petitioner is saying that the elections were fraudulent. So what they will try to do, substantively, they're saying the election was fraudulent, therefore it was not free and fair. And the election, according to the constitution, according to all laws, should be free and fair. So this is what they're going to base their arguments on. And what they will try to do is, during the course of the trial, to raise issues and show cause how, fraudulent activities took place. The only thing they should be careful of is, there's a maxim in equity, in law, which says that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. So it was beautiful. I don't know how he's going to play. I mean, I don't want to get into this, to be honest. Yeah. But if you say that, oh, there was Sujar business, and then they see you with pictures with Sujar, all those things, they too will bring pictures. So it will be a Sujar computer. They will have to see which Sujar is bigger, which one is smaller, if the Chuniwar was longer here or there. So me, I don't want to get into I don't want to get into those things. But on a serious note, really, what both parties will do, one will try to establish that yes, fraud occurred. The other party will try to, in my own opinion, what I would have done is to show that no, fraud did not occur. And for example, if this particular party says, okay, this particular action was fraud, they will have to show a corresponding action by that party and say, well, if it was fraud, they were also engaged in it. So it is not, that kind of thing. So. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's going to be a very tough and interesting one. But the most substantial, the most interesting thing is the defense have raised a preliminary objection saying that this suit cannot be entertained by the Supreme Court. They don't have jurisdiction. What they are saying is the Supreme Court does not have jurisdiction to entertain a suit when there is a constitutional provision saying just plain, ordinary, simple language. And in law, if the language is not ambiguous, it is not complicated, you have to give it its ordinary meaning. So me, my brother, that's where we will see what will happen. I'm sure Kexx will report for us to see what will happen. But now,
Melville, I just wanna I wanna break this. Whether you think you talk about this Sujur thing and this Churuwan and other things. So you think if these people said, okay, they were involved in giving these Carreros and Churuwan to these people, these Sujers and other things, you think the defense team will say that, okay, they were also involved? Because the moment you say that, then that means that you are confirming to do fraudulent activities. You are confirming to them, yes, okay, you accuse me of involving in giving suggestions and other things, but you two did it. So you are trying to justify. I don't think that they will even entertain such thing to justify, because I see so many people on social media coming with that. Okay, yes, they are Carreros too. They also give Carreros. But if you do that, it looks like you are confirming.
You see, you have to also. Okay, I don't want to get into. I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is so hard. I wish this was before or after. You see, because you see, law is very interesting, because that's why I always tell people that it is so easy. You see, all those people say, but this is what the Constitution says. You see so many people now, everybody's reading the Constitution. If it was so easy that it's just what the Constitution says, then nobody will go to court, because everybody knows the Constitution. But you can see that even people where it says do not commit murder, you have seen people commit murder and they get away with it because the law is just technical. Now, it is not the action of giving out stuff. You see, I don't want to get into this because I will be clear. But it is
No,
not,
that's fine. If you are not comfortable,
you see, I can give you $100 in now. Okay? And it will be fine. But I can give you another $100 and my intentions are radically different from the first. So it is not just giving the cooking pot. It is not the chunua and the sujer. But the reason, you see what they will establish is that it was to induce the voters. And that is what the law is frowning upon. It is the law is not saying don't give chunua. Why not? If you see somebody that cannot cook and they need cooking pot, you give them. But what the law will establish substantively is the reason for that particular giving. So now, for example, it could be that Unity gave cooking pots, but it was in that particular campaign period. It could be. We don't know. I don't know the facts. Me, I wasn't following cooking pots until today. So it could be that NPP gave cooking pots, but it was within a particular time frame.
Indeed.
So at the end of the day, it will be, the cooking pots will be there as an issue, but what will be looked at is the substantive reasoning behind giving out the cooking pot and whether it contributed or amounted to influencing votes in that direction. So that is what will be looked at.
Okay, thank you.
But Mel,
you're trying so hard to get me into trouble today, Dabakh.
As a matter of fact, you see, all these political parties, and I've always been saying this, the only people that I don't see openly do it, I don't know if they do it, is PDIS. But apart from PDIS, from Jawara's days to now, this is something that political parties and politicians have been doing. Even the last mayoral election.
Okay, now me and Kexx are about to fight. What did PDIS not do? Tell me.
No, like going into communities, giving people calories or rice or televisions or fridge or money. Look,
so
I have participated in the last. No, let me give an example.
Dabakh, if I was a sitting judge,
yes,
Kexx will now have to explain to me and make me understand the distinction between material gifts and intellectual property gifts.
Okay, you see, all these gifts.
You are now telling me that one is in cooking pots, but PDIS is engaged every day by imparting knowledge by giving out. That's giving.
Yeah.
For example, they have induced Kexx in a way that he has gained too much knowledge to tell openly.
I know, right?
So now
that's a good argument.
And tell me that giving something only means material gifts.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, you're right. And this is why, okay, as a lawyer.
Leave me in my corner there.
No, that's very debatable.
As a lawyer,
what was the intention of PDIS created the
So Mel, as a lawyer, do you think it's about time our election act is reformed, especially when it comes to election financing and how politicians and political parties spend money or how they go about their campaign? Because it seems
you see,
reason why
I want to say something. I just saw a particular comment that I must respond to. Ibrahim Manyas, he said, Mel, you cannot qualify that as an inducement. You see, what would amount to an inducement has to be the preference on the recipient of whatever it is. So, for example, to Kexx, you cannot attract him with a cooking pot. But I know if I come with Machiavelli, I can get him. So you see, the inducement cannot be reduced to material. There are some people, like, for example, me. no matter how beautiful a girl is, if I cannot connect with you intellectually, I can't talk to you. So people have different preference.
Yeah.
It's not everybody you can go to and offer cooking pot, offer chunwar, offer this. And PDOIS have a particular target audience. They know the people, they know what the people want, and they're giving that. But that is just a joke aside, that's just for fun. But let's carry on.
So, but as a lawyer, do you think the 2021 election has shown a loophole in our election act, especially how political parties are administered and how campaigns are done and how funds are raised, but also how funds are spent during elections? So, do you think with this experience, is it important that, as a matter of urgency, that we revise our election act to make it so that political parties are not only accountable in terms of how they comport themselves, but how they raise money and how much money is spent on every election cycle?
Yes, I agree. I agree. But you see, there's a fundamental problem. And the problem is that, you see, people tend to forget that laws are not abstract. Laws have, all laws naturally should have a mischief. They should have a defect that they're trying to cure or a defect that they're trying to prevent. You understand? And mostly your laws are patterned according to your cultural norms, to what is culture, what is acceptable, what people have regarded as, okay, this is wrong and this is right. It just doesn't drop from somewhere. I think, yes, we can, for example, we have so many progressive laws in the country, but you still see people either not respecting the laws, violating the laws, or not just giving any credence whatsoever to those laws. I think what should change is the attitude and the mindset of the average politician, whereby people begin to see and understand that, okay, money is raised for, election purposes, how you raise the money, how you get the money, what should be declared, how it should be. But for now, the culture is nobody tells anyone how they get their money. Am I right? Or I don't know if I'm wrong. Probably people are doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're
doing that. You can give a donation to a party, it will never be declared. Another person can give campaign funds to somebody else, it will never be declared. So we don't know. We have parties even competing and saying, oh, I'm richer than you, I have more money than you. But you don't know how these monies are being raised. They all have, Gambia is one country that a favorite phrase is anonymous donor. They love that word, or anonymous donor. Everybody's an anonymous donor. Everybody's anonymous with gifts. So the culture has to change, and people have to begin to understand. There has to be massive. You see, it's one thing to make the laws, it's one thing to get the proper laws, but it's another thing to bring civic awareness, to make people understand the laws. People have to understand the laws. People have to understand the rationale behind the laws. And I think that is what I think. Yes, I absolutely agree that some of our laws are so archaic, they're so gone past the days, but just having the new laws doesn't change things. You have to make people understand. For example, the issue with CA and IEC, you have a law that says, oh, it's a first come, first served basis. But the person that determines the first come, first served basis is the actual proponent and custodian of that law. So really, there has to be massive sensitization. And I think, like you said, I think we will see a lot that will come out of this. Trust me, I know the Chief Justice is a very, hands-on, meticulous guy, very legal-minded. And I'm sure we will see a very, very rich ruling, a very rich judgment with this petition. And I believe it will begin to put the ground norm, the basis of the culture of elections, as to what is fair, what is proper, and how it should be done. I believe that will be one of the good attributes, one of the good things that would come out of this particular matter.
Okay, Kexx. Kexx. Kexx, you hear me? Well, it seems Kexx is free. Kexx, are you
No,
hearing me?
It looks like the moderator is gone.
No. I'm hearing you. I'm seeing you. Are you okay? You're on, huh? Kexx. Mel, it seems Kexx is freeze.
Kexx,
Okay.
say something. Kexx, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I don't know whether you get it, man.
No, I think he's just
Okay.
the internet is just delayed. You
Okay.
have to
Now,
like give him a
okay.
few
Now I'm
seconds.
hearing you. So,
Okay.
Kexx, being somebody who is is a member of the PDIS, I know we have the political parties where they come together and discuss issue. So, why do you think some of these things that
Hello?
people are complaining? You hear me?
I think the internet is too bad here.
But we
Are you
can
hearing me
hear
now?
you. We can hear you.
Okay, you hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was saying that, like, your conclusion, I always tell people whatever the outcome of this petition before the court will be, it will cement, or it will, in terms of whether it's the judgment favor UDP or it favors the NPP. What I know, it will flourish our democracy. It will not only stop there, but it will flourish in the way our elections have been conducted. Then people will be mindful of when they are participating in election, what they should do and what they should not do. So it will guide the entire process, and it will help us, in trying to cement our democracy and our electoral process in the whole. When everything is dusted by 2026, you will find out people will be very mindful when they are conducting election, what to give during the election and what not to give, and what should be their utterance, and even if they even intend to petition next time, people will think that whether I have a tangible evidence before that I can present before the court. So it will help our democracy, but it will help the incumbent to know that he or she has a limitation in terms of political campaign during political. So for me, at the end of the day, democracy will win. Whatever the outcome of the election is, democracy will win at the end of the day. And that is the beauty of this petition. And that's why, for me, I'm very interested to follow up what will be the end of the case. But it will help us, and the democracy of this country will win at the end of the day.
But Kex, don't you think also it's kind of too late, too little, too late? Because I think you have the inter-party committee, and I think some of these things probably before the elections, the inter-party committee could have sat down and then look at some of the reviews, some of the amendments that they thought were important to be made on the Election Act, and probably make proposal to IEC and the government for them to make some of these amendments. What do you think was the reason why I was made to understand some of these changes were proposed to political parties, but a lot of the parties really did not accept to it. And now that the election has come and passed by, the same political parties or the same politicians are raising some of these issues. When they were presented with the opportunity to make these amendments, some of them did not accept it at that time. What do you think brought in the change of mind? And probably make proposal by text.
Kexx, we can't hear you.
Are you getting me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You hear me? You hear what I said? And I was made to understand.
I'm not
Okay.
hearing that.
Okay. In the meantime, before Kexx responds, let me just say
No,
something quick.
I'm not hearing Daba. That's why I did not respond. I hear you. I'm
No, what I
hearing
said.
you, Melvin, but I'm not hearing Daba.
No, what I said is what I
Ah,
said.
okay. I'll
What I
repeat for
said.
you. What Dabakh said? What Dabakh said was, don't you feel that all these issues that are being raised now with respect to the Election Act were things that were raised by the inter-party committee, right? But at the time, the political parties, there was no political will or party will from the various parties to change anything in the Elections Act. So don't you think that that should have been an opportunity for them to change it? And is it not a little bit too late? Daba, is that what you said?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I'm saying. I
indeed,
think
indeed.
just
That's what he said precisely, even before the National Assembly. That presently, there's a bill before the National Assembly called the Amendment of the Election Act. There's a fresh bill that they have prepared and is before the National Assembly. And they invited all political parties during the scrutiny of the bill before it will be tabled before the Parliament for them to look at even the finance of the political parties. But this area has been a very serious contend and argument between political parties in regards to the finance of political parties, because other political parties says that if they want the restriction that is in the bill in terms of how they finance political parties, if that happens, then their political parties will not have a source of income to sponsor their political parties. So it was more of a serious argument, and even there was a suggestion that government should uh, allocate budget for all violation political parties that will contest in an election, so that it will not be a political parties going outside tapping funds from other people, but government will provide funds for all the political parties that will contest in an election. But other political parties want to spend more than what will be allocated, and they can have only those source of money outside, which will not be under any control. So they delayed the whole process, and there was no agreement in terms of the bill. But Gambians, when all of us were in the opposition, we all felt that the election act that we have was very bad to the extent that it only favors an incumbent, and we got up and requested for what we call an electoral reform. And we go. That was the time the Obasanjo's, the former president of Nigeria, came to the Gambia and met with the Gambia GOFA, that's the Gambia oppositions for electoral reform. They met with the former president Yahya Jammeh, and they had a meeting for a need for Gambia to have a new electoral act. And by then, all the political parties were in for us to have what we call a new electoral act. But when they came into power, people see that okay, they are comfortable with this electoral act, like you said, because there was a scenario that happens in the National Assembly, which is very funny to me. When National Assembly members came, they amended what we call Section 91D of the Constitution, because it bars the National Assembly members to be independent so that they can do their work without fearing that their parties will sack them and they will lose their seat in the National Assembly. But the same thing was repeated on the Local Government Act, for them to secure the same people that are elected by the people, so that even they are sacked by their party, they will still be a council, members of the council, unless they are recalled by their members of the constituency that voted for them. And other people say that no, that should not be. So when there was an agreement, they said, okay, before the law was good, but now the law is before the law was bad, but now that law is good because it restricts what we call. So you could see inconsistency with some of our political parties when it comes to issues. When it direct affect them, they want it to change. But as far as they are enjoying it, those acts or those bills or laws, they feel it is comfortable, they should not change it. But I think the Gambia need a new electoral act that will save the democracy, or that will speak, world evolves, and as we are going, our democracy is development, and our documents that govern democracy should also evolve so that it's fine-tuned with the democratic dispensation that we are in. But if you want to still rely on 1965 laws, and when we are in 2021, democracy is evolving, we'll be left behind, and history will judge us in the wrong sides of history. So I think we need to amend so many rules in our country, from the constitution to the electoral act, and some of even this company act. They have to change, and I think Gambia need a serious reform in terms of laws that are governing this country.
Mel,
Yes, sir.
as a lawyer, uh, we've seen some of the reasons. One of the reasons why the opposition parties couldn't win was because a lot is said that it has much to do with the power of the incumbency. As a lawyer, what did you think the 2016 coalition agreement and what happened after the victory? Did it really set a precedent for future coalitions to happen in Gambia, especially with bigger political parties, knowing fully well that
Me, I'm only
in
here in
Gambia,
Melville, so I only rely on you. So Dabakh not
yeah,
getting that.
knowing fully well that in Gambia we have an executive presidency who, once voted into office, is no more at the mercy of the coalition partners unless and until it's a matter of, let's say, how can I say, morality and legality. And in which cases, when it comes to governance, legalities take precedence over morality. So, what do you think politicians need to learn from the 2016 coalition agreement? And do we need to move away from the executive presidency to parliamentary presidency, or what?
Okay. Before I answer your question, I'll just take the honors by relaying what you said. I cannot say it verbatim, but I will just try to, because your question is a topic of debate that I want to debate Kexx on any platform, and I've been inviting him for the past 2 years. 2 years I've been inviting him. I want to have a debate with Kexx on the topic. You know what the topic is? The topic is, why did the coalition fail? Whether the legal safeguards or the legality that surrounded the coalition agreement favored the power of incumbency to the extent that the coalition agreement kind of failed because there were so many legal provisions that were actually favorable to the executive president once elected into office. I said it right. That's what you were trying to say, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
exactly.
I'm telling Dawa that I came to Gambia last year. I invited you for a public debate. You said no. And I'm still waiting because I really want to have a debate on this, but just this particular issue of the
No,
failure of the coalition.
we can do that next Sunday.
Kexx, Dawa wants to do
Kexx,
it next Sunday. Are you in?
Yes.
Okay, then next Sunday,
Dawa
I
wants
think
to do the debate
I'll
next
talk with
Sunday. Are you
Beto, and
in?
that will be an issue.
So, I'm traveling to Nyamina. The only problem is whether I will have a network, but apart from that, I will be available. But,
You
I'm
see, he
going to the
always says
program.
that, Dawa. He always says
Yeah.
he's traveling to Nyamina. He said he wouldn't have network.
No,
Okay,
I said I don't know whether I will have because
we
for long,
okay,
I told you I'm preparing for my election. So, there's
Okay,
no
okay,
time.
okay. After
So
elections. Okay, after
I'm
you
going
win.
there with this traditional thing. But I know I will be back within a week. But if there's network, I will be available for sure.
Okay, after you win the elections, after you win, we'll keep it for after you win. So he says he's
Uh,
going to Daba. He's going to. I'm the go between you and Kexx. So Kexx is going to Nyamina to perform the traditional rites to prepare himself for the election.
yeah,
But anyways, Daba, to answer that question, you see, this is where I am in a different position with everybody else, because in as much as I have phenomenal and absolute respect for Honorable Salah, Honorable Siyajada, I think they missed the plot in this particular agreement. In that, every agreement on planet Earth has to be accompanied by an enforceable mechanism to ensure that parties stick or adhere to the dictates of the particular contract or agreement. And where they fail, there are mechanisms in place to hold them accountable for the non-performance and or failure of a particular provision which they have appended to or agreed to be bound by. Now, you see, I don't want to give all my debate points to Kexx because he will go and do some research. But we have an agreement. The Constitution provides that the mandate of the executive, of the president, is 5 years. Now, you have an agreement that says that we are agreeing that you will serve for 3 years. But what this agreement failed to understand was that the Constitution was the supreme law of the land. That regardless of the dictates of the provisions of that agreement, the Constitution gives supreme right to the party to that agreement to choose to either accept the contractual obligations in that agreement or rely heavily on the constitutional safeguard that allows him to stay for 5 years. Now, if he so chooses rely on the constitutional provision. There is nothing that anybody can do by matter of enforcing the dictates of the agreement, because the agreement is short. It is below the constitutional provision, because the constitution is the ground law. So where it happened that President Barrow refused to accept the agreement of the coalition, there was nothing that anybody can do about it, because he was safeguarded by a constitutional provision which was superior. So therefore, I am of the view that the mistake, the error, was drafting an agreement where you know that there's a constitutional order, a set provision that is backed by law and legality, but envisage or that the person will be gentleman enough to accept the provision. Because once you go into the terrain and the realm of the person, relying on the person's gentleman or moral obligation, you have departed from law and you are now into the aspect of morality. But I don't want to delve into this, because this is a debate that I won't delve into. I want to invite Kexx or anybody for that debate.
Yeah, actually, interesting points that are raised. But what we have to understand here, when these people are coming together, I see your argument, and your argument is based on, for them to foresee what has happened now after they have agreed.
Yes. Let me give you an example. I don't know if anybody noticed that when President Barrow had his first interview with the journalist, his first press conference, and there was a journalist that asked him and said to him, "Do you have positions for all these individuals?" His response was, "I did not make a promise of position to anyone. I invited them to come and join me. They wanted to come. They believed in my policy. They believed in me, and they came." If you look at it, that was him giving a very calculated response based on his experience with the prior coalition. So even if there was a clandestine or an undercover, he has publicly made a pronouncement where he said, "I did not promise you that."
Yeah, actually, what you are saying, I know.
Man, it seems that Kexx has dropped down, but I hope he joins back.
So for me, the Constitution gave so much. It's really an executive constitution, if you would say. It really favors greatly the incumbency, and it really gives so much power to the incumbency, and it is not something that can be easily overcome. You see, the circumstances or the prevailing circumstances of 2016 were radically different from 2021. You see, in 2016, not only were Gambians actually tired and fed up with the whole Jammeh regime. It's been a regime that was there for 22 years. The young people that were voting did not know anything. All they hear are stories about the previous Jawara regime. Most of the people that voted in the 2016 election were voting for the first time. And all they knew and understand was the Jammeh kind of leadership. So people are tired, and it's just a natural human instinct that people don't want to live in fear. So if you look at the time, that particular moment, and then you try to compare it with 2021, the absence of fear had already gone. And one brilliant thing about President Barrow is that, I don't know how he does it, is the ability to ignore and allow people to say whatever they want to say, believing that they're exercising their democratic rights. Now, there are two advantages that I have looked at with respect to this. The first advantage, and also corresponding disadvantage, is that it gives an advantage to the incumbency to say that we are a thriving democracy whereby you can say what you want. You don't have the aspect of fear. You don't have the fear of being arrested. You don't have the fear of being tortured. Your family members or whatever cannot. Now, the disadvantage to that is that When you go now, the rhetoric in all the election cycles that we've had historically is that vote for me, we have to move out of dictatorship. So you see, the message to the average Gambian, and if you look at the way Gambians vote, Gambians don't vote based on substantial policy. They don't vote on the policies that you sell to the electorate. Because if that was the case, you would not compare, really, relative comparison, the manifesto of PDI and that of the NPP. But the NPP manifesto, in my opinion, was more or less a fusion or almost a copy of the National Development Plan. But what is and has been the culture from 1994 to 2016 was that people were played on a side of policies which the average Gambian has not arrived to understand, that election should be based on policies and the deliverables and what can be delivered by the respective presidential aspirants. But the culture has always been the killings, the kidnapping, the torture, fear. So fear played a great role. And then in 2021, you couldn't sell that fear to Gambia. You couldn't sell that fear to Gambia. So even though things are a bit hard, things are a bit difficult, even though really, if you put on a scale of probabilities, you put a performance scale on Adama Barrow, Sidi Ajata, Halifa Saleh, Lloyd, really if you want to check on all three things, probably, you might say President Barrow will be on top. But what he has done, what he has phenomenally done, is that bit about taking away that absence of fear. Nobody fears. Nobody fears for anything. And then when you compare, you see, and this again, I believe it's a shortfall, because you see, when the government of the day was in power, at the time when they just took over into early 2017, and of course you had the UDP being very much part of the government, you couldn't tell there was nothing like NPP at the time. It was really basically, as people would accept, it was like a UDP government. You had all these issues. You had the Faraba incident. You had the other what's it called? There was the Faraba incident. There was the other one that they had these commissions for. But outside that, really, you only had the 3 years Jotna kind of scuffle between the police. And then, of course, you saw the state dropping the charges and things like that. So it was a very calculated move. So for me, what I feel should have happened immediately they took office. They were very aware, the drafters of the coalition agreement were very aware that the Constitution was against their agreement. The Constitution cannot protect their agreement. What they should have done, in my opinion, I may be wrong, they're more smarter than me and have more experience. The first time they took office, within that 1 month, rather than going for the amendment of the age limit, rather than going for the amendment where parliamentarians would not be sacked by their party, would not lose their seat if they were sacked by their parties, they should have amended the Constitution or come up with some sort of constitutional provision whereby they would be able to find some sort of legality for the coalition agreement. So that even though you had the Constitution, the parliament was there, the political will was there, there should have been some form of legal leverage or legal leeway that they would have used to give that coalition agreement the legal standing it desired. But that was not done, and you saw all the other amendments that took place. So when it came to the time now that the coalition agreement should be respected, it was like the little brother fighting with the father. And this is exactly what happened. So that was why if you see my post that I was making with respect to the APRC NPP alliance, I was saying that you can come up with all sorts and all manner of memorandum of understanding, agreement, but when Gambians go to vote, Gambians go to vote governed and directed by the spirit and laws of the 1997 Constitution. When Gambians vote into office President Barrow, they vote President Adama Barrow alone. Alone. He would be, if he is sworn in, he is sworn in alone. He takes his oath of office alone, and then he becomes an executive president. You cannot verbally, through a gentleman's agreement, try to take away the fact that he's an executive president, sworn on in an executive manner, conducted by an executive election, by laws and provisions that are mostly geared towards an executive presidency. So for me, these were my concerns and these were my shortcomings with respect to that particular agreement. And it is not that they did not know the law, they knew the law, but because there's a provision that says the president can resign, but then you have to understand that when it says the president can resign, it is a matter of choice. It is a matter of choice. So when they draft those agreements, they should also know that even though you're saying the president can resign, you should also correspondingly say the president may not resign.
Interesting.
We have almost 20 minutes towards the end of the program. And possibly, I know people want to call because usually that's what happens every Sunday. Okay, if probably Binto will put the number in which people can call if they want to call in the next 20 minutes. And if that's not possible, we'll be sorry because this is the first time that I'm hosting and I'm doing it on her behalf. And she'll be coming back next Sunday. But we are looking at all your comments and we appreciate everything. It's a democracy, and we want to build up a space in which Gambians from all walks of life can come together and discuss about issues that affects the Gambia and Gambians, without any malice. And let's understand this. Opinion and facts are different things. Everybody has right to your opinion, but facts are sacred. And in these issues that we discuss, we are not here to say this particular group is on the truth or this particular group is not on the truth. What we are here is to talk about issues and express our individual views. It might not go down with everybody, but come on, that's what democracy is. And I think it's important that we nurture this space in which people can discuss freely and everybody shares their opinion. Okay, going forward to wrap up the show, because the thing is, we couldn't dilate more on the petition because it's a matter that is. And I hope in the next 1 week or 2 weeks, we'll have the opportunity to come back after the judgment has been made to review the judgment and look at the cruxes and the nexus of the.
No, but remember the judgment is not next week. They're going to rule on the preliminary objection that President Barrow cannot be a party to the suit. That is what the ruling will be for next week. And then I think they're having some sort of conference to agree on time and dates and everything. And I think from what I saw somewhere that the Chief Justice had agreed that the matter will be determined within a month. I think they're trying to do this before the swearing.
That's what he promises. Within 30 days it will be done. So on Tuesday, I just deal with the motion before them that whether they have the jurisdiction to even hear the case itself, because that is what is the Barrow can bring already, whether the courts have the jurisdiction to even hear the case bills. So then Tuesday they will, then Wednesday they will look at the petition itself. That will be the first hearing of the petition itself. But the magistrate, the presiding judge, has promised that because this is a matter of national interest, he wants to finish with this case within 30 days. So we are expecting March 17, January 17, we should be done, and on the 19th, Barrow will be sworn. So we might even have the judgment of the case before even the swearing ceremony of the president, whether he will be sworn in or not, whether the court will go in favor of the president or it will call for another
I
fresh
would have,
election.
I would have thought that the petitioners would actually seek an injunction to stop the swearing in until the determinant of the suit. But I don't
Yeah.
think they want to go that far and flex their muscles that much. So let's see what.
No, maybe also because they learned from the ruling of Yakuba's case, and that could have been a reason why they think,
But I didn't agree. I did not agree with that. I did not agree with that. I will never agree with that. I don't think it was wise to allow for the man to be sworn in, and then he takes his oath of office, and I don't know, but that was like, now to me it was a bit of a tacky kind of, I don't know. They're always right, aren't they? But I don't agree.
Anyway, so my last question is this, and it's going to both of you guys. And one, looking at the election results, because I've seen a lot of people make comments that people voted, especially the UDP camp, they're trying to project that notion that people voted based on tribalism and all that stuff, which to me, at my own personal view, I did not agree to, and I don't believe so. And I have evidence for saying that, because I believe if it was more of like ethnicity, I don't think then UDP would have underperformed in areas or regions as they claim where you have the Mandinka dominance. And I think this elections is beyond ethnicity, is beyond tribal line. I think it's important that the University of the Gambia, especially the social science department, do a research and a study and generate a paper on this, why this election went this way. So Mel and Kexx, one, what do you think?
Before you ask your question, can I say that I disagree with your premise? I disagree with your premise for the simple reason that the matter is being tested in the court. And if the court rule that the election was not free and fair, then we would tend to agree that yes, it was done along tribal lines. And why is because the reflection of the results is not as accurate as we think. So until the elections is declared free and fair, then we can solely rely on the demographics that we have and the statistics based on the election. So we would have to wait
No,
when it is declared.
but the funny thing is, it's not Barrow or the NPP that organized the elections, and that's why I have an issue with the petition. For me personally, I never wanted to go into this because I thought it's important that we allow the court process to go. If you have has somebody who participated in the elections, if you disagree with the results and you think the way the process was organized wasn't free and fair, I think the right institution that should have been petitioned was the IEC, period, but not the president. Because the president was an individual and a player.
That is a matter of choice, because remember, you see, the law is not as straightforward as that. You have to look at what we have within our sub-region. I mean, election petitions, you do have them petitioning the party leader and secretary general, but you cannot put, the part that I vehemently disagree is you cannot add Adam Barrow as a party on his own accord. Adam Barrow did not represent Adam Barrow. He represented an institution, a registered political party. So you cannot separate the two.
Okay.
So we're going to have an interesting interpretation by the court, because the court will now deem or yes, it's a provision in the constitution, but the court can decide to say, you know what, hey, yes, he's a president, but is he above the law? So you want to tell me now, okay, because he's a sitting president and he goes and takes a dagger and stabs somebody, that the law can't get him. If he's a sitting president, he goes to Kexx and he takes Kexx's $2 that Kexx is going to use to pay his tuition. Kexx doesn't have any redress according to the provision. So Kexx would have to suffer his fate and wait until he goes out of office. So we're going to look at all of this. This is what the court is going to look at. And the way they will interpret that, I think, will blow the minds of Gambians in some instance. So we don't know. I don't
Okay,
know.
let's wait and see.
For me, I think the court will look at the intent of that provision in the Constitution. What is the intent? Why they inserted that provision in the Constitution first? Whether the intent has been, for me, I think that's the key important thing, why the provision is in the Constitution. The intent of the provision first in the Constitution, whether it means to safeguard the president, even if he does certain things or not.
This is what you call the mischief of the law.
But now, Melvin,
when interpretation comes in place, you have the the rules of interpretation. You have the literal, which is the plain ordinary meaning. Then you have the golden rule, and then you have the mischief rule. So the mischief, I think, like you said, is they're going to apply. They're going to look at why do we have this provision in our law? Is it to just protect the person of the presidency, or are we protecting the office of the presidency? So we're going to look at all of it. If you've been following the issues with Donald Trump in America, the lawsuits and everything, you will begin to understand how the judges tend to look at these things. So who are we protecting? Are we protecting the person of Dabakh, or are we protecting the office of the president? Who does the law refer to? Does the law refer to the holder of the office of the president? Does the law refer to the office of the president? I mean, these are all interpretations that the judges are free to do and come up with anything. But one thing I do know, whichever way the interpretations go, one thing will be established, and that is no man can be above the law. This is an international ground law. So is it the man or the office? We will wait for next week to know.
That's interesting. They said we are going into substance of the case, so I think
let's wrap it up. Because I don't want us to go into the substance of the case. Okay, Melvin, with your experience of Gambian elections and Kexx, this one goes to both of you. I think one thing that a lot of Gambians would agree to is the open space in these particular elections in over a very long time, or even maybe probably in our political history. Why do you think Barrow won with this margin, and what is next for the opposition parties, and what needs to be done if they want to avoid the dominance of the NPP in subsequent elections that are coming, and that is both the parliamentary and local government elections?
Who goes first, me or Kexx?
Anyone could go first.
Okay. The first thing, I think, like you said, a study has to be conducted this just concluded election. Because, to be honest, the elections, let's be honest, even NPP supporters were shocked at the election result. And I'm telling you because I have friends who are in NPP. If you look at the climate, that what was happening when voting was ongoing, is that I don't know what was happening on the ground, but based on my yardstick of social media, NPP were a bit disgruntled that the ballots were not fitting properly into the boxes, that the people were not. There were some, they were raising some issues.
Yeah.
And these are issues. If you understand social science, you understand, the psychosis of the mind. You can tell that these were all like kind of, bit. So nobody knew. And then when things begin to, and if you look at what was happening online, when NPP was faulting the IEC, and now I'm talking about the party militants, yeah. And when NPP was actually faulting the IEC, or IEC, even when during the CA saga, people were saying that, oh, that's Sambujan Jai, they don't trust him. I mean, these were coming from NPP guys. UDP was mute. I was shocked. I did not see a single post of any UDP militant calling for anything or any questioning of the IEC. Even some of their top brass were like, okay, my good friend, Honorable Savali was saying, we trust in the IEC, we trust in the process. So then the dynamic began to change, you know, as things were going on, then you see how it switched. It was the UDP now, oh, they don't trust the parties, we do not trust the IEC, what's going on, what's happening, and stuff like that. So, to be honest, if you look at it, these are indicators that tell you that the result, the outcome of the result was shocking. It was shocking for the party militants. It was shocking for the opposition. I mean, people didn't quite understand that Khalifa would lose the election in his constituency like that. You know, this is where he is well known. This is where his community that appreciate and know him. So the elections, to be honest, came as a shock, as a surprise to many. Now, did Gambians, from the narrative that we see on social media and even talking to people on the ground, did Gambians really vote for Barrow, or did they vote against the opposition? There was this fear factor that if Barrow doesn't win, automatically it's going to go to the next biggest party, and that was the UDP. They were the foremost contenders in the election. And some people that did not vote for Barrow did not vote for UDP, did not vote for UDP because of their love for Barrow. They voted for UDP, they voted for Barrow because of their displeasure of the UDP. It takes you back. We had a similar scenario. If you're going to do a very good comparative analysis between 2016 and 2021, we saw the same play. So in all indication, you must say that Barrow is a very lucky man. He's a very lucky man. And he is a man of the moment. That is the reality. That's the truth. Because in 2016, first, when they had the Congress, Barrow was an unknown man. You had the face of Khalifa Sanneh. You had the likes of OJ representing the PPP. You had the Henry Gomez. You had the My Party. And that was a situation where all of them decided to put their trust on an unknown man, an unknown Barrow. These are not ordinary realities. When you look into political discourse, you want to do a political in-depth analysis. These are the things that people would look at. What were the factors? What were the indicators? Why would somebody vote for an unknown Barrow rather than unknown Khalifa Sanneh? What was Barrow's political experience at the time of Congress? What was under Barrow's belt to make overwhelmingly, even the delegates that came for the other respective parties decided to put their trust not in their own party leader, but in an unknown Barrow. Then you come to the elections. You had a known Jammeh that was giving and doing everything and was working and hard. Yes, you had all the dictatorial tendencies, the dictatorship, banner over him. But this again was Gambians overwhelmingly supporting an unknown Barrow. Bros, I was in the streets of Gambia. I was running after Barrow. I didn't know who he was.
We all did.
I knew his wife. I didn't know who Barrow was. But there I was supporting Barrow because I, like any other Gambian, had come to a position, to a time where we just wanted to see something different. We were tired, like, okay, yes, Jammeh, you're doing all right, you're doing good, you're doing something, but it's time for you to go. So we are all there. You have people that don't know Barrow. You have diasporans overwhelmingly putting their money, their resources to an unknown man. And then what did we see? We see the same political leaders now beginning to back the unknown man. So you see the Khalifa Sanneh backing the unknown Adama Barrow. You saw the known My Party, the struggler backing the unknown Adama Barrow. This is what we saw. This is what we saw. And at the end of the day, what happened? Gambians did not vote for Adama Barrow, but Gambians voted against the man they knew. They voted against a regime they understood. They voted a regime they didn't like. So they voted against Jammeh, and of course, Barrow became the winner. What happened in 2016? That was 2016. What happened in 2021? You have Lawyer Dabo, the lawyer, the phenomenal lawyer, the politician, the sacrifices, the life of service. And then you have Adama Barrow. We've only known him for 5 years. You don't see him, he's just cool in his side, doing his thing quietly. And then Gambians go to the poll. You have the Khalifa Sanneh. He's a brand name. Every single Gambian knows who Khalifa Sanneh is. If you talk to any Gambian, they love Khalifa Sanneh. Every single person I have spoken to love Khalifa Sanneh. But for some strange reason, The love of Halifa Saleh has never been able to be translated into the vote for Halifa Saleh. You're going to look into the dynamics of that. Why would Gambians vote for a person they don't love? Why would Gambians overwhelmingly agree that, yes, I love Halifa Saleh. Halifa Saleh is a man of integrity. He's a man of impeccable character. You know, they talk about how glorious he is, but then you wouldn't give him your vote. You saw SFR, the phenomenal TRRC. Everybody loves SFR. TRRC, he was the darling, the baby. But guess what? When it comes into the political terrain, governments are like, I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care how many houses you have. My brother, I am not voting for you. So you have to understand the dynamic. What is driving the average Gambian to vote? Did Adama Barrow have better policies than Halifa Saleh? Did Adama Barrow have better policies than UDP? Did Adama Barrow convince the voters or had overwhelming better policies and agenda than SFR? No, I don't think so. But for some strange reason, when Gambians go to vote, these are not the things they look at. So people have to begin to understand that Gambia is not the same with other countries. The voting indicators in another country, in another region, cannot be the same of Gambia. You have to study Gambia for its unique and peculiar circumstance and situation. So if you have to understand, you have to study the terrain, you have to understand it has broken all conventional rules. All conventional rules. You go to Congress, you vote for an unknown, a man you don't know, a man you've never met, a man you've never heard of. Kexx Sanneh can agree with me or disagree, but PDYS sponsored that Congress at the Carabao Hotel with their money. Yet still the delegates that they brought that no Halifa decided to put their trust on the unknown Barrow. And today we have Barrow as the president. In 2016 again, we still have Barrow with, you know, holding the office of the, who is telling you that it's going to change in 2026? What makes you think it's going to change in 2026? I don't think it will change. But one thing is certain, the Western ideology, the Western concepts and principles that we think are the indicators, the driving force behind the average Gambia voting strategy or voting technique or what is influencing their vote is absolutely not that. We have to study, we have to look at what is peculiar to our circumstances. What is very, very, you know, really, it's just Gambia. Kexx, over to you.
I don't think I should add anything to my analysis. This is very perfect, but he brought in the issues of the coalition, Halifa and other people support. You know, we have to understand the situation that we were in at that time. Yes, Adama Barrow was not known by anybody, but the political party that brought up Adama Barrow was known in the political scene for a quite long time. And seeing other political players, you know, sacrificing their party, they said, okay, we are not going to contest, but we'll support Adama Barrow and give him our 70 delegates, because the OJs never contested. They just give their 70 delegates. So UDP back in Adama Barrow, my party, the same thing, Henry Gomez, the same thing. So these things have been a factor, even if they go that way and Halifa members voted for Halifa and Ahmad Ba people voted for Adama Barrow, would have been the victoria. And if you calculate the 70 delegates of Adama Barrow at the UDP, my party, and that gives you the total amount of vote that he has compared to the NCP, because there was a fraction between the NCP. Majango Samusa take the 40 delegates to Adama Barrow, whilst the 30 voted for Bolontin Boja. So this way it is. But we have to analyze, we look at the Gambians, whether for the history of this country, has Gambians ever voted against an incumbent? You know, it has never happened when it comes to the electoral process of this country. Jawara was here, previous elections have been happening. But at the end of the day, when we go to the polls, at the end of the day, when the results are declared, it's the incumbents that will take over. Until coup d'etat came in and Jawara was overthrown by the APRC government. And where APRC, from the transition, they came up again. Every election, they win the election. Until we came together and we see that it was a necessity to remove the president in power. So it tells you how the Gambian people, whether we still have this mindset that the Gambians have, that, okay, because if you go to my areas, in my communities and other places, they will tell you that, That times I try to understand why do people have this concept that if you cut off a massa that means that you don't vote against an incumbent. So they have this mindset. And if you go to other places, maybe it is the same mindset that they have. So, but I don't believe that Gambians, for the history of this country, we have ever voted based on a policy of a political party. It's more of a personality or more of an incumbency. So I think still now there's this fear factor of incumbency in most of the Gambian people because even NPP itself will tell you that prior to before the December 4th election, the majority of, I spoke to them all the time. They will see the UDP crowd or see the Mama Kande crowd. They will call me overnight. No, these are prominent members of NPP. They will tell Halifa Sallah for us to come together so that we will not have a UDP or a GDC government because having a GDC government means that yeah, Jammeh will come over because GDC is working with Jammeh. And if they come, Jammeh, GDC will give him an immunity and he will come and stay in this country and he will overthrow this government. So there's this one. And he will hear some say that UDP government, we should not even have a UDP government because you know that they put us all in this mess. So you know that even the Barrows camp, they don't believe 100% that they would have won this election. So when we went to the poll, we see that Barrow have 53% of the votes. Still now I sit down, I discuss with people about this thing. Up to now, I cannot come into terms. How did the Gambians, and I think there must be a research or a study done to understand actually how did Gambian people, why do they vote the way they vote? Is it what was the influence that determined their vote? Because it wasn't, I told with Halifa Sallah, I go to communities that make me to believe that they will vote for PDOIS. And I go to that village, I found them singing that IG. And there's nobody that they are saying IG rather than Adama Barrow. But that the same constituency Adama Barrow has, or that area, Adama Barrow have 1,700 votes. Halifa Sallah have 25 or 26. UDP have 200. Mama Kande have 96. So I said, no, I could not believe it. These are communities that I found them singing that Barrow must go down.
So that this brings you to a logical point whereby it's only two. Okay, the analysis could be very in-depth. The analysis could be radically different. The indicators could be varied, and then you would look at it from different angles. But it brings you to two salient positions. Is that either Gambians are not honest and are not sincere, or the elections were in some way rigged? Because, like Kexx is saying, the reality on the reality of the ground did not translate into the expectation or the of results. And we can and you cannot ignore these to do a proper, in-depth, analysis on the issue. It's either what you get. For example, like I said, I know I've spoken to people and I know absolutely there are some votes that I saw, the fraction of votes for Halifa Sallah, I did not believe it. Because you're in Gambia. Who does not know Halifa? Who does not like Halifa? So you begin to understand when you go into that ballot box and you see the face of Halifa, why would somebody that is jumping and Halifa would jump his box and put it in somebody else's? A study has to be done.
But Mel, one thing I can tell you about Gambian voters, and the reason why I knew about this is I have actively participated in a campaign during the last mayoral elections. Trust me, even on the day of our nomination, we locked down the whole of Westfield towards Churchillstown. Thousands and thousands of people came out. But you see, the truth is, and this is what, if we have to discuss about this, we have to be honest with ourselves. You see, the way the Gambian elections process is, the Gambian election is on the voting day. Elections would be very difficult to be rigged on election day. And these are matters of fact.
But elections are not free on voting day.
That's why I'm coming. That's why I'm coming.
Bobby Wine. What country is Bobby Wine? Uganda or
Uganda. That's where I'm coming to. So for me, the fact that we have the legal instruments in which we could have challenged some of the issues that we are raising now, and we did not do it, beats my imagination. And for me, it's more of like trying to recover a steel mills on the ground. Because when the registration process was going on, it was completed. Names were posted publicly. You had the revising court that was on standby for almost 2 weeks. Not even a single person went there to petition against anybody. So it means to me, what that shows was the political players believe the process of registration was free and fair. Period. Because if I have an issue with somebody or a group of people, I would have gone there and petitioned it. And the fact that nobody did that, to me, it shows that they agreed that the process was fair. So, but one thing also I can tell you, you see, not everybody that follows you will definitely vote for you. And the reason why I said that is the mayoral election for me was a learning lesson, and it taught me not to be so much emotionally involved in candidates or in political parties, because you can always get the suck of your life.
But then what is the hope? What is the hope then, Daba, for our politics? Because now, of course, in the next election cycle, we know we're not going to talk about crowd size. That one is now over, because we now believe that crowd does not translate to the vote. So crowd size
Absolutely.
that is out of the window. But I don't know. Something.
You see one thing. Let me tell you one thing. One thing also I've learned during the mayoral election is, it's not the people. In every community that you go to, you have these young companies and you have these respected elders within the community. So what I've also came to learn is, because our campaign, we refuse to give out money, and we did not, and also we refuse to collect money from sponsors, like companies or people that we think they have interest in our campaign and they might want to influence what we do. So we are not taking money from those people. So our campaign was 100% fully funded by ourselves. And what I've come to realize is, you go to these women groups, they talk to you, they tell you, you tell them your program, and they buy into it. But the minute that you leave, your opponent comes and gives the I company, let's say $10,000.
Daba. If that is the analysis, Mama Kande, let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, I don't know the man. I don't follow his party or anything. But one thing is consistent. This guy, every disaster, he's the first to be there. He will donate money. He will be digging boreholes. I mean, I think he's even if you want to do a research in the sub-region, he's the leader for borehole drilling. He's always with his community. And I cannot understand why the Delo Dukal did not go to Mama Kande. But
I think Kande spoiled his campaign. The fact that he was associated with the Jame breakaway, but not only that, also he gave opportunity for Jame to speak in his platform. And if you listen to most of the speeches that Jame gave, Jame was talking as if he was the presidential candidate of the GDC coalition. You understand? And the fact that a lot of Gambians are totally way off Jame, I think they would have find it very difficult to vote for Kande, knowing that voting for him is bringing Jame back into this country. And I think that was a strategic mistake that Kande made.
Daba. Okay, and this is going to be my last point. My back hurts. But the message of GMC, or is it GMC? Or GDC? GDC was the sole message that NPP was striving on that necessitated the visit to Kanilai. What Mama Kande thrived on the latter part of the elections was the substantive message of NPP at the foremost part of the elections. The visit to Kanilai was not only an executive statement, it was a political pronouncement aligning the NPP with APRC. In fact, theoretically speaking, If you look at it in depth, that was more of a political statement than allowing Yaya Jammeh to speak from far away Equatorial Guinea on WhatsApp when the connection was breaking. In fact, it did not only stop at that. In that particular visit, President Barrow said that was the best decision, the best move of his presidency. Did you not hear that?
Yes, absolutely.
This was a total alignment with Jammeh. In fact, the entire dispute between the No to Alliance movement and the APRC NEC executive was on the basis of the endorsement of Yaya Jammeh on either party. The MP and the NEC was saying Yaya Jammeh has given his blessing. The non-aligned movement were saying Yaya Jammeh is not endorsing this. That was the crux of the matter. That was the basis of their disagreement. So if you want to do an analysis, to now say that Jammeh speaking was a disadvantage to GDC, to Mama Kande, all these other indicators and factors show that, in fact, the NEC used the name, the image, the brand of Jammeh. In fact, if you look at the Ashabis in the early start, it was Jammeh and Barrow. If you look at the banners, it was Jammeh and Barrow. So that was why I will just disagree in that regard. But I think phenomenally, we need to be able to study Gambian politics and understand, because the factors that we think, you and I as intellectuals analyzing, is not the factor that is determinant for that woman in up country when she's going to put a ballot box in that box.
Absolutely.
We have to know and understand what is the driving factor, the driving force behind that woman, that old man, is going to put his or her ballot box, even knowing fully well that they don't know where the next meal is coming from, even knowing fully well that there's no electricity, there's no power supply, there's no clean running water, yet still they continue to vote for the incumbent. We need to understand what is the driving force behind it. Like Kexx said, is it spiritual? Is it cultural?
No, definitely. We need to study that.
Some people have raised the issue that it is cultural, that you should not vote against the incumbent. It's like you're voting against God. So the indicators that are driving these people to vote in the way and manner they do cannot be addressed on social media. You can do all the Facebook lives. You can do all the sensitization, you can do all the campaigns, you can do all the fighting on social media, all the rhetoric, but it is different on election day. There is a driving force towards that incumbency, and people need to understand the rationale why.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you.
Absolutely, totally agree with you.
So now let's wrap up. I think we've even gone like 18 minutes overboard. So Kexx,
yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It has been an interesting program. Melvin, we cannot have enough of you for your analysis. We said thank you, and I think we will come back after the courts have finally decided on this petition to analyze too. But it's going to be a very interesting one, and I think let's Gambian give chance to democracy and rule of law. Let's all keep our opinion and wait for the court to decide. And whatever is the outcome, I think it will be important for us to respect the decision, because, like you said in the beginning, you cannot say that okay, the court is independent because it's make a ruling or a judgment in your favor, but tomorrow you say the court is not fair because the judgment or the ruling is against your favor. That's not what we mean by when we said our judicial system is independent. Whatever will be the outcome, it's going to cement our democracy. It's going to support us in the future election to know that people cannot just do whatever they feel like doing in terms of campaign and other political activities and go scot-free. They will know that there will be people that will challenge them in the court, and we have an independent institution that will look at every detail that is before them to make the judgment. It has been an interesting program. Thank you to everybody who is listening, who is watching, and anywhere, whatever I said here, if it is something that is you think it's the right thing, and that's the will of God. But if I said anything here too, that is against you, it's not my intention. I'm just human and I'm bound to make a mistake. But it has been an interesting program, and I learned much from my senior brothers here. And together we'll build a better Gambia all of us can be proud of. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Kexx, one thing that I have to tell you is I think I am wishing you good luck in your endeavor to run for parliament, and you can count on my support. And I think it's important. Uh, Go for it if that's what your wish is. Uh, I know, like you know already, politics is not easy. It comes with a whole lot of things. But like I said, when you dream about something, you just, like Melvin said, you just have to focus and believe in yourself. Don't listen to anybody who tells you you cannot do this, you cannot do that. I've always said this, and I will continue to say this. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm very much passionate about knowledge, and I go out seeking for it because my being itself asks me to. You understand? But I've always said this: education is not the yardstick to measure how good a leader is. If that is the case, then Gambia would have been like Dubai or Singapore. We have how many PhD holders, how many bachelor degree holders, masters, ACCA in our civil servants? What have they done for Gambia since 1965 to date? So for me, sitting in the classroom is good, but that's not the only place that one can seek knowledge. And people need to understand what knowledge is. We have very knowledgeable people who have never sat in our conventional school system. And when you sit down, like the Jallo at the village, the Jali at the village who narrates history is very much knowledgeable. We have seen university professors go to them for them to lecture them and tell them about the history, historical facts of our communities and our people. And that is knowledge. So don't listen to anybody. Focus on what you want to do. Believe in it, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Mel, I cannot thank you, and I think our viewers also have agreed a lot at a greater part with you. And one thing I like about you is you're fearless, and I think that is what is lacking in the Gambia's intellectual space. People always want to say things because they want a particular group or particular individuals to be happy with them. But when it comes to the truth, or when it comes to expressing your views, what is important is say it the way it is, and it doesn't matter who agrees or disagrees with you, because not everybody is going to agree with you in whatever that you do. Even when you dance on water, people will say you are throwing dust in my eyes. So for me, one thing that I appreciate and respect in you is your honesty and your straightness in hitting points, because I do follow your writing and I read a lot on them. And I think the explanations that you have given today with regards to this issue has taught a whole lot of us to understand how the courts work, how lawyers think, how the law operates. And I think we'll have the opportunity to come back when the judgment is made and we sat down and we go through the judgment, because usually lawyers will write almost 18, 20 pages documents, and usually most guidelines are not very much passionate about reading. And I think, but you as a lawyer, I think will come back and then you will help us and, explain the judgment in simple layman terms like you did during the CA case with the IEC. And once again, thank you very much for taking your time and, sharing your knowledge with us. And it was definitely a very interesting program, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to Kexx. Thank you to you. You guys are phenomenal. I knew from the very start that it would be a learning and teaching moment. I've learned a lot, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. And together we can get a better Gambia. It might not be now, it might not be tomorrow, but we will get there. If we have the passion, we have the drive, we have the willpower, we will get there. And to Kexx, congratulations on your public, pronouncement that you're going to run for public office. I think this is very good. I think it's commendable. I think you can learn from my experience in my life. Concentrate on you, be you. You don't owe nobody an explanation as to who you are. You are you. and that's what matters. I surround myself with people that believe in me. What others feel about me, what others think about me does not matter. It does not determine me. I can only determine my progress. I can only determine my future. The determinant factor of happiness is and resides within me, not outside factors. So somebody can say anything to you, you will hear all the noise, all the negative comments, but it is your responsibility to focus. It is not what people say. It is not what people tell you that you amount to. It is what you believe in yourself. It is what you know deep down that you can achieve. And let me tell you this lastly, most times the people that try to bring you down are already below you. They're already down, and that is why they struggle to bring you down. If they're above you, what they will do is to uplift you to get to their level. But when they're below you, they try to bring you down. So you have to have a focus. You have to have that direction. Keep your focus. Don't relent. Don't let anybody define you. Only you can define yourself. Make the right moves, make the right choices, and at the end of the day, only you can determine what you're able to do. You're a winner, you're born to win, go for it, and I'm telling you that you will win and you have all our support. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, once again, thank you very much to each and everyone who took their time to watch the show. And we couldn't do it better than our sister Binto, but at least we tried. And hopefully next week she will come back. Once again, we appreciate each and every one of your comments, and it's a learning process, like I always say. What binds us as Gambians is bigger than what separates us. You know, political ideology or ethnicity or religion isn't that much of a difference, you know, and we have so much in common than what divides us. So I think what is more important and fundamental is for us to respect each other's views or political lineage and see it as a divergence of views, which, if put together, would build a better Gambia. At the end of the day, what matters is, I think Gambians had the opportunity freely to go out there and choose, and they have chosen. Whoever does not agree with it, I think they are doing the right thing, and that is going through the right process in seeking redress. And we hope that God will guide the Supreme Court members, and we believe in them because they have shown exactly what kind of people they are. And we hope whatever decision that is taken, Gambians will respect that and will move on and then look for a brighter future together. So once again, thank you so much. See you again next Sunday. Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.